Go ahead and join on in. We have game number 1 between Wam and LoueMT starting now.
Absolutely. Now, game 1 in this series, we have Wam spawning in as the color blue in, playing as the Malians on the north side of your map. Playing on the south side is LoueMT, playing as the yellow color and the Chinese. You can see with multiple scouts coming out from Empire Wars. Again, you're not just getting one in a normal 1v1, you're getting two. So you're going to be able to scout that map really quickly, going to be able to get all your sheep you need.
Yeah, and it's not just the quick feudal age as is expected a lot of times. Louis doesn't want to just immediately drop that Barbican. He wants pressure on the other side. Wham's going up with the Mansa Quarry, but the pit mine, it's front and center. So this is a perfect plan by Louis, who is going with that earlier wheelbarrow and moving out across with the villager too.
Oh, yeah, I love this idea, especially because Malians, they need a little bit of time to get their feet out from under them, right? It's helpful in Empire Wars to get that pit mine, but they got to get all of the structures, get the buildings that they need to do to generate the passive income that really ends up stomping you a little bit later in the game. So by 30 seconds in, if you can put a little bit of pressure, take down 1 or 2 of these houses, put an outpost, you see a blueprint up there where that pit mine is, it could spell trouble for Wham if he doesn't know what to do about it.
Yeah, and I love that he has wheelbarrow already finished. It allows that villager to get across just a little bit faster midway through the route. The spearman is there to support, and that's just not a normal villager. That's a Chinese villager, so going to have that extra build speed. The second spearman arrives, and now Wham might be in some trouble as he needs to be able to counteract those spearmen, which obviously is archers, but still now just finishes the archery range, needs more than just one archer to come out as well.
I think you really highlighted the MVP of what this is, and that's the Chinese villager. You can see how quickly that outpost is going up. Wham needs that little bit of time, right? He's got to get that archer range up. He just queued that archer. We're about 2 minutes, 17 seconds in. It's going to pop out a little bit later at about 2:20, but that tower is probably going to be up by then.
Yeah, tower is up. The first house going ahead being burnt down. It's on fire and will go ahead and be finished, which isn't too big of an annoyance in the grand scheme of things, but will deny some bit of gold income for Wham on the other side. However, replacing the houses with another pit mine and replacing the pit mine that's being burned as well.
Yeah, I think one of the hidden goals that LoueMT has too with this, having that tower up in the front, he takes a lot of map control just with that outpost. Wham, again, trying to get that feet out from under him, getting that second pit mine over there, just trying to establish himself on the map in general, whereas LoueMT has the ability behind it. You see that fat, juicy Barbican by the sacred site. We're 3 minutes into the game. LoueMT is trying to reign supreme on this hill already.
Yeah, and that's that same villager that built that front and forward outpost, just pulled it back, solo building the Barbican, and that's just going to be a nice and efficient Song Dynasty with a lot of investment behind it as we see him moving over to the stone. So not only Song, he's going to have a very, very quick 2TC Song, which obviously these timings are pretty wild when you hear about him in Empire Wars, but I mean, he's going to be dropping that second TC here in just under a minute, I would say, under 30 seconds or so.
Yeah, I got to give a lot of credit to LoueMT on this one. It felt like this strategy was absolutely calculated for him. And of course, I mean, we're going to be talking about the difference between Empire Wars and 1v1 over and over again, but you're right. Having that second town center up there while the Malians are trying to get that passive income, that second town center might end up paying off just a little bit quicker. And it might end up meaning that LoueMT is going to keep this hill for the foreseeable future.
Yep, we see a little bit of the first other action out with those warrior scouts. And Molly, warrior scouts are nothing to be messed with, although extra hand cannon slit in the outpost takes one down. And yeah, there is a ton of healing, but can't heal when you're dead.
No, absolutely. And that's one of the things for warrior scouts. They're very good at moving around the map, doing a little bit of things like raiding, doing a little bit of small like skirmish fights, that kind of stuff. But if you get them to sit in one place so they don't have the time to heal, or if you lead them through that outpost with hand cannon slits, you're going to end up losing a couple more warrior scouts than you might like to. Now that one, however, is going to be quite the magician because it's probably went down to about 7-8 HP, but give it about 30-45 seconds and we're going to see it at full strength again.
Yeah, and exactly that. The spearmen inside this outpost have been, even though there's archers out, even though there's a javelin throwers out, they're still bouncing in and out of that outpost and just proving this pain in the side of Wham and just constantly being annoying.
Oh yeah, this is this is really annoying. I mean, we know from Warrior Scouts all the way back when Warrior Scouts was the meta for Malians, right? We knew how frustrating and we knew how annoying they were. They're continuing to be annoying even in this particular season. Now, Louis doing a good job of shelling up just a little bit on that left side, on that right side. He does have that second TC up. And now for Louis, as long as that Barbican stays up there, just a matter of time. He's going to sit and play the slow game. He's well okay with doing that.
Yeah, just scouts continually proving to be annoying, continually proving to just be the same pain in the side that Louis is causing. But Louis is investing in the walls, and all during this time now is going up to Castle Age here before the Molly player, it looks like, or just about at the same timing.
Yeah, it looks like it is just going to be about the same time. Both of these players have a macro that's very similar. Wham going with the Grand Fulani Corral, as is pretty much the standard for the Malians. Warrior Scouts getting in, though, with a couple Spearmen. Got to run out of there before you lose your Warrior Scout count. Now, LoueMT with Castle Age going to be going up with the Astronomical Clock Tower. And I'll tell you what, when you have control of that hill, getting that clock tower up and getting the siege superiority that China normally does in Castle Age, it's going to be a bear for Wham to fight.
Yeah, I know you always are the one to talk about China, all the more kind of on the scary side. China is definitely that beast that no one wants to deal with, especially when they become fully online. And getting to that point is LoueMT with walls invested into.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that, where you talk about that being a beast, a lot of it being from the clock tower, right? I mean, nest of bees are such a dangerous thing to deal with. Sometimes you get way too many beehives and there's nothing you could do, horseman, warrior, scout, or otherwise. Along with the clock tower springles, which you need that one extra springle to take down. So it's quite a frustrating thing when you're trying to go uphill, when you're trying to get that middle of the hill, and you just have all of that siege that can just stay in one place and just rain fire on you. It's so frustrating to deal with.
Yeah, exactly that. And now Louis not only has that outpost on the initial pit mine, he's starting to raid the other pit mine with some horsemen, not really allowing Wham to get that just full amount of gold that he needs when Castle Age is kind of that key factor.
That's what really separates super top players, right? Just having two horsemen, having the APM to do that. Go around on the top right side. He knows he's trying to get gold from that pit mine, and he's trying to mine some. Wham on the other side, on the western side, trying to get the same thing, but there's a difference. LoueMT has walls. Wham does not, just starting to wall up that northeastern part of his base.
Yeah, and so now we're kind of seeing this timing where even though this middle has been controlled, no sacred site starting to tick down as of now, which really starts to put the pressure on even more.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about, we talk about how important that sacred site and that hill is. Obviously, it's important if you have the ability to take it. I mean, make sure in Castle Age you get that monastery down pretty much immediately. You'll be able to take it down. A little bit of a skirmish, though. LoueMT having some Castle Age units going to be using those palace guards that just run like marathon runners.
And I love the micro there by Wham. Also having some micro on the other side, was able to snipe down the spears with his archers and still split off the scouts, although did end up losing one at the end. But this is the point where Molly starts to get quite a bit scarier. It's no longer scouts. The full kind of passive eco starting to get online. So scouts turn into sofas, and sofas in numbers are just like knights are, and very, very scary.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, once you get that imported armor for the sofas, it's very, very difficult, and you need a hard counter to deal with it. LoueMT is doing a good job making spearmen. He's got about 14 total, a couple more in the queue. You can see how quickly they'll go down to spearmen. You know, they don't have as much health as a normal knight, but you get that imported armor, that is one dangerous piece of furniture.
Yeah, and Wam's perfectly fine with Louis investing further into the Spearman, but it's kind of Chinese's space to be. They like getting into that infantry comp because they have the very, very strong siege behind it with Nest of Bees. So they're not too far, not too... I would say they're very familiar with what they're doing here now, and we just see the first Nest of Bees coming into queue as we speak.
Yeah, the sooner you get those up, the better. I think Wam also did a really good job. Now that this outpost from minute, .4 is finally starting to go down with enough sofas and archers, Wam did a good job of making sure once that sacred site started to get captured, threw a couple sofas in there in the middle, just to delay that timer to start. It just buys him just a bit more time for that castle age, that all of that passive eco to pay off. And you can see how well it pays off for Wam. He's got a military count, even though he's down 25, 26 villagers. It's all that passive income where the military count is actually a little bit higher for him.
And the monk on the sacred site has a relic secured as well, so not only will he want to be getting this passive gold there, has an additional bit of passive gold, could potentially do a Wololo to cause some annoyance, force those units on away, which is exactly what happens. Archer's starting to step up, and Louis, he just needs his siege support, and Wam's going to have a little bit of a harder time to take this fight. And I don't mean the Springled siege support, I meant the Nest of Bees.
Yeah, the Spriggle isn't going to do too much. I mean, it's looking in the opposite direction more than anything also, but hopefully he'll be able to get a Nest of Bees. He only has one in the production. There's the beehive starting to sting. Some of those archers all the way in the back. Sofa's trying to get around, trying to take out that Nest of Bees, and it looks like it will do so, but as a very commonplace DrDabston phrase, at what cost?
Yeah, Wam's still stepping up, choosing to take this fight and deactivates that sacred site, still ahead in the military count after this, but is going to have this kind of reset again. And Louis, he's still slowly stacking up that Vil count behind this. Looks like he might be having that granary transition. And Mali, they don't have the pit mines on the massive gold veins, don't really have a ton of long-term gold security as well. And speaking of security, that is one heck of some secure walls there on the west coming down by Louis.
Oh, that's a great, decent amount of security. It's basically life insurance for the Chinese at this point. They'll be able to get some stone walls on the eastern side as well. You can see it on your mini-map, some of the stones coming up. And these Chinese villagers, we talked about the build speed. We foreshadowed it a little bit with that first outpost. They'll be able to get keeps up here too. With the Barbican, it's going to be an impenetrable force.
Yeah, and the Sofa, they're trying to find somewhere to pressure. They know it's China. You want to do some damage to their eco. You can't let them just go untouched, but Louis is making sure that he has no gaps in those walls, no holes that can be punished by the Sofa and the keep. It's going to be finished here now, and if Wam tries to dive that sacred site again, it's going to be all the more harder with Chinese keeps.
Yeah, and it feels like from watching this game how good Chinese actually is on this map. Having the ability to be in that back corner where the hill is, having the natural defensive areas that are better than stone walls, having those cliffs all the way around. You only have to wall a small amount of time. LoueMT's got his late game, his post-imperial kind of economy starting to go. And as soon as he gets those granaries online, it's a train you just cannot stop once it gets on the tracks.
Yeah, and look at the layers after layer after layer of walls he's going in with right now. He's just making sure that all of this army can't get focused. He can slowly move up the keeps, move up the outposts, and just have his siege protected behind this.
Yeah, because he's thinking about how can I possibly lose this game. LoueMT, I think we can notice in the 14th minute of the game that he is the clear front runner just in terms of the economy that he has. And the fact that he has that sacred site. So he's thinking about, how do I lose? If he gets raided to death, he loses about 30 to 35 villagers. Yeah, that's a way to spell a loss, absolutely. So those walls coming in very handy as well. The one thing that he's really got to get to, though, hopefully he gets a military count high enough for Wam. So if they do take a fight up there with the sacred site, the defensive structure is going to help him out as well. But hopefully he has enough military so that decap doesn't happen.
Yeah, Wam circling around this western side. It is spotted out by Louis. A couple more villagers going down. Sofa immediately going to burn down this outpost. But it's no longer 1 or 2 Nesta Bees, 4 Nesta Bees firing on that army mass of Wham, and he has to pull back away.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing you could do. With 4 Nesta Bees behind a wall like that, whether it's burning or otherwise, you're never going to be able to get to that area. Archers obviously aren't going to do anything because, as far as I know from my caster's note, Dabs, you can't poison a block of wood like Nesta Bees are.
Not at all, and Wham, he's trying to push back up for that location again, and even though those Sofa are basically knights, you can see how much damage they took from those rockets.
Yeah, and everybody on horseback, they're not supposed to take that much of a difference, but at least about half the health of those Sofas go up. But look at this, Dabs. Fort of the Huntress trying to go up. I don't know if this is going to go up. LoueMT's troops are there already.
Yeah, it's definitely not going up. The Nesta Bees step up, immediately take out a good amount of villagers, and I mean, yeah, we talk about Molly having a ton of passive resources, but that means the villagers are that much more costly. Wham has to fall back with his villagers, but pushing forward with his army as well.
Yeah, there really wasn't any support up there. I think he was thinking he might sneakily get that Fort of the Huntress, but you got to remember that Barbican and those outposts around the sacred site get an impressive amount of sight. Now LoueMT backing up with his ranged mass, backing up with his spearmen and palace guards, but Wham finally broke the Chinese wall. Let's see how many villagers he can get.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy for Louis to pull siege back and clear all of these units because of how slow it is. But one thing about walls, he can just build a gate, go through the other side, but they're not going to be working for all that time.
No, they absolutely won't. I mean, the granaries, you can see the Chinese rice paddies over there on the west side completely vacated. He's not getting much in the way of food income. He's actually bottlenecked in that department. LoueMT only has about 100. Continuing to make spearmen. Wham with his mass is keeping the archers close to the Sofas, which I can appreciate. He's looking for villagers to kill, but he's not finding any.
Yeah, this is a great job by Louis, and there's so many villagers, and somehow they have all been protected for the most part. Great job even with the immobile army to kind of cut off Wham's army here back in the corner, and Wham doesn't have many places to go now, stuck in the back, and maybe he is allowing himself to take the sacred site to recap the middle. Nesta Bees not in the greatest position. Sofa's trying to do some rapping, villagers running as well, but ultimately it just seems like Wham has bled a lot of units on the front side.
Yeah, he did. I mean, you could see his military count was hovering like in the mid-60s before this happened, and now with all of those Nesta Bees stinging that ranged mass, his military count is down to about 40, continuing to drop a little bit. He's trying to get to the granary to try to take care of some of these units. Villager count for LoueMT, while this has all been going on, because Wham has been in every part of his base, while it has been going on, still hovering at about 115 villagers. It's incredible how well he was able to save those peasants.
And during this time, Wham slowly was able to push up. It wasn't quite the Fort of the Huntress. He built an outpost there instead. And look at what Louis is prepping. That's not just a stone wall. That is going to end up being the Great Wall Gatehouse and another keep on the other side. He's just, again, using these defensive structures to just nonstop kill all those archers on the other side. And Wham's having to pay a lot for those.
Yeah, if that Great Wall Gatehouse goes up, we've seen the Great Wall Gatehouse get so many military kills up there just because of how powerful those Nest of Bees are. And I think with those villagers that are pulling the outpost, might want to get that gatehouse up as soon as possible once he gets the resources, because then, I mean, we talked about this being impenetrable with the multiple keeps, the Barbican. You had a Great Wall Gatehouse, it's going to be nigh impossible.
Yeah, well, one thing that does start to take these unit or structures down quite quickly and from range is those trebuchets. Wham not investing just into a few. He's got 4 out and another one on its way.
Yeah, I did see that as well. I mean, the trebuchets from all the way in the back, it's probably the only way you're going to be able to take out some of these defensive structures. And you can see those giant rocks getting slung from a different area code, or at least a different screen, all the way around to those keeps. But it's just about the amount of time that he has. Sacred Victory is still ticking down. We're at about 4 minutes and 40 seconds. Chinese villagers can repair that keep as well at a rather quick rate. Wham seems to be running out of time here.
Yeah, he's running out of time, but he is, I feel like, slowly starting to make a dent on the structures. However, Louis has had all of this time to just continue to invest into the Nest of Bees siege mass. And yeah, he might not have the same sprinkled defense needed. And well, now that's where the Great Wall Gatehouse is. I believe that still might be in range of Sacred Site too.
Yeah, I actually do believe it is. Wam is trying to get some sort of foothold on this hill. We saw it with Fort of the Huntress. He's trying to get keeps up as well. Nest of Bees do a good job of taking down a lot of villagers that were trying to go there. You're seeing sprinkled bolts firing from these keeps, hand cannon slits. Every time Wam just tries to get close to the sacred site, there's a multitude of those defensive structures just raining their special version of fireworks out there.
Yep, 3 minutes, 42 seconds. Wam's trying to get this keep finished. The Nest of Bees could step up potentially, but Wam, he's got some Springalds in play. The stone wall makes it very hard for the Springalds to be able to snipe down the siege that Louis is kind of hiding behind it. But as I say that, first Nest of Bees or another Nest of Bees gets sniped out.
Yeah, with those stone walls, I think you made a really good point. The stone walls on the western side, notice where he's positioning. Be sniped just because the Springalds had to creep up just a little bit more. But if he just continues to have Nest of Bees behind that stone wall, Sofas have to go all the way around, try to take that thing out, and it's going to be so difficult for him to get rid of any of those Nest of Bees. Wam finally has a keep up though. He's got about 3 minutes left. This isn't looking very impossible for him anymore, Dabs.
It isn't at all, but that being said, Louis is Imperial. So like all this time that Wam has been distracted with the sacred site, Louis at 115 vills. Like, yes, we know how strong that cow boom is, but 50 extra vills, the Chinese eco behind this, granary eco. At this point, I feel like even if Louis loses the sacred site, he should be able to win the long game against the Mali, who is still in castle.
Yeah, I think you do have a pretty good point there. Now, a fight for the hill is starting to commence. LoueMT, you talked about him being Imperial, has a decent amount of hand cannoneers. He's got about 20, and they will take down the Sofas if they have the opportunity, basically like target practice. Springold's just getting popped like balloons, Dabston.
I was about to say, not only Sofa, they start taking down everything, including Siege that doesn't have any siege works, anything like that. And they're not just normal hand cannoneers. Those are the Chinese hand cannoneers, that much better with the extra range. And another Fort of the Huntress attempt going down, and it might not be able to be secured there as the hand cannoneers already starting to snipe the vills. Nest of Bees are just kind of chilling there watching, but Fort of the Huntress isn't too far from finishing. But at what cost? As you mentioned earlier, Wam, he has no military. He has no economy, it feels like, behind this.
No, he's got nothing to try to decap that sacred site, right? As long as you have, just based on the new changes for Sacred Victory, as long as you have something there, that Sacred Victory timer ends up going down. And I think Wam knows that. He's trying to pull just a couple archers. He's got a Sofa up there also. I mean, yeah, the Fort of the Huntress is going to help you out, but if you don't have something to just stand on that sacred site, you're going to watch it on the top right part of your screen continue to tick.
Well, we're just seeing here now where Wam, it feels like he's run out of steam. It feels like he has committed so much into trying to get those keeps up, trying to get that top of the hill, that he doesn't really have steam left behind this.
Yeah, absolutely not. I mean, Vodka's looking at the military count that we have here. It's 57 to 11. Wam has about 50 seconds to try to muster up any kind of military prowess. And it looks like he is adding some siege as well, adding some culverins. That's going to help him out against some of those clock tower bombards. You can take a look at that Chinese economy with it being just completely set up. LoueMT getting about 2,000 food per minute, so he can continuously pop cap himself, where Wam is sitting at 84 population in 25 seconds.
And there it is. Game number 1 goes over to Louis, and we kind of talked about the game plan, the Empire Wars differences between ones, and that felt like he just went into that with just a plan from the start and executed it perfectly.
Oh, this was, to be honest, I feel like for Louis, it was a clinic, right? I mean, he knew from second one on the lobby screen, he had an idea of what to do, right? Putting that outpost all the way up there, getting map control a little bit later, making sure his Barbican was safe up there from King of the Hill, and didn't let Wham get anywhere near with military units. Try to get that sacred site, and Wham tried with those couple of keeps. He knew he needed his own defensive structures acting as more of an offensive structure up there. Fort of the Huntress is probably one of the best that you can get instead of just a normal keep. And it just still wasn't good enough. LoueMT putting on a clinic for game one. But hey, man, this series is not over.
No, not by any means, as this is just the first of many here, potentially. And we at least have another game here already ahead of us, already in store. We can see the Civ matchups. We can see the map. It's Roos versus ABBA, and it's Basin.
It warms my heart. We're less than an hour into this stream, and we're going to see a Roos game. It's great. It's great. I was expecting 0 going into today. So I'm playing with house money at this point. But on Basin, this is a map that we've seen in pretty frequently, I would say. Do you think Roos and Abbasid, both of these, do you think they're good civs for a map like Basin?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they both kind of have their different strengths when it comes to a map like Basin. I think Roos has their strengths when it comes to every map, though, I will say. When it's water, hybrid, no water whatsoever, they just are always kind of that civilization that can be utilized in a few different ways and kind of very, very effectively. ABBA, on the other hand, I will say that Wham's probably one of the better ABBA players out there, kind of very comfortable on this civilization. And I think that their Empire Wars start is a very kind of great ability to kind of vault themselves forward with, a few different builds, with having already the House of Wisdom Eco Wing, or not Eco Wing, the markets dropped with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when we're looking at an Empire Wars meta, yeah, there's some civilizations that, obviously are very, very good in a 1v1 setting. But I feel like Roos is one of those civs that people aren't particularly scared of in the Empire Wars. I mean, I remember watching some of the round robin stages from last week. Roos was not an auto ban, whereas Abbasid, we see it banned from LoueMT, so LoueMT cannot use Abbasid Dynasty. This is one of those civilizations that, I mean, we talk about it in a 1v1 setting. They need to get their economy going, and then they just become that powerhouse. Hopefully in Empire Wars, it kind of takes some of that out of the equation. They can get their feet under them a little bit quicker and really hit that power spike that they like to do in Castle Age. We'll see if Wham could do that.
Yeah, we saw how quickly Lou was able to get 2 TC Song last game. We'll see how quickly and how many TC Wham is going to be going for this game. It's game number 2, starting in on Basin. Wham is in the color blue as ABBA, and Louis in the color yellow in the north as Roos.
Yeah, I want to know, actually, as we're going into Dark Age and into Feudal Age, probably by the time I finish this sentence, but how do you feel about Basin as a whole, with 3 of those sacred sites, one being relatively safe for either player? Creates quite the interesting dynamic, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like with all these maps, with Empire Wars, there's always this different dynamic, especially compared to ones. And one thing we'll notice that Louis, with both of the builds, both civilization choices, he immediately has invested into Wheelbarrow at the start.
Yeah, I like this from Louis. I mean, when you're starting out just in a normal Dark Age, you need to make sure you get enough deer to actually do that. For Roos, it's a little bit different because you already have villagers and a gold mine that are mining gold. So you're always going to have that little bit. Plus, with the bounty that you end up getting in Dark Age, obviously having 2 scouts off the rip is pretty helpful. LoueMT actually adding a 3rd as Roos. So did get enough bounty, does have the gold villagers up there. Going to be able to get Wheelbarrow and Kremlin at just about the same time. But look at what Wham's doing. He's going for Culture Wing here.
Yeah, and Culture Wing's one of those kind of wings that we don't see a ton in the ones, but kind of seeing it a little bit more often into Empire Wars, as you don't really need the eco, you don't really need the military wings as much to get those TCs down, so you can really get that other abilities, the other bonuses of the civilization.
Yeah, I think you really hit the nail on the head there, because we talk about how economic wing is so good in a 1v1 setting because you got to get your crescents to be fertile. But for Wham, you have enough villagers as Abbasid Dynasty. You could see him macro appropriately for another town center. He's already there. He's got over 600 wood. He's got 460 stone. He might be having a presence of mind to maybe go 3 town centers. He's continuing to have those villagers on stone on the western side of his base while adding that second town center near his gold mine. So I can really understand, just by watching this for the first couple minutes, I can really understand why he's going to go culture wing, because the economic wing, the military wing, it doesn't seem all that important.
No, not so much. You can always get those later on as well when the strengths are still there. And Louis, he's obviously going to try to, knowing Abba is going multiple TCs. Roos, they aren't ones to not go for some eco investment themselves. They have that Kremlin for safety. They have the extra wood income. They have the ability to take some map control with early knights. And so he's already gone over to the stone as well. Should be dropping a second TC here in the near future. Or actually already has that down and should be dropping a third, I should say.
Yeah, I was going to say, he put that second town center by the western side, kind of near his Kremlin. So that area is going to be very good. And a third town center. Oh my God, he's yoinking them, Dabs. He's yoinking them.
At first, I thought I saw the Pro Scouts upgrade, and then I wasn't for sure with it. 4 scouts, though, I mean, denying food from your opponent. It's not only securing food for yourself, you're also denying it from your opponent. So you're going to make Wham invest into farms that much earlier, kind of have these weaknesses, potentially wanting to move out to some berries farther out on the map that he might not should do so earlier. And so great idea here by Louis that Wham might not have been expecting, and really didn't have a counter for it either.
Yeah, I mean, Wham does have one safe deer patch. It's a little bit more southern and to the south of his third town center that he had over there, and does have berry bushes. But I'll tell you what, one thing that we haven't talked about yet from getting your deer yoinked like that is the morale. You know, those were deer that you thought you were gonna have, and you see 3 of them just waltzing back north into Louis' base. Difficult to recover mentally from that, I would say.
Yeah, and you can see he's already knowing that there's an additional deer pack that he has secured with this TC, but there's still kind of this ability for Louis to potentially circle around, to potentially just kind of snag 1 or 2, make them get displaced further away. So Wham's actually putting this little weird wall next to the deer in the south, and he's dropping a stables, going to be getting some horsemen out on the map himself, deny some of the scouts.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to. Right? You can't just let that happen. And oh my goodness, a 4th town center from Roos. We're used to seeing an Abbasid mirrors. We're like, under over on how many town centers we're going to get. This is a Roos versus Abbasid, and I'm counting 7 of them little icons.
There are indeed 7 town centers out on the map as we speak. One of the things that kind of the reason why Louis can do this is because Wham's distracted in his base. Wham hasn't been scouting on his side, most likely scouted the stone, but probably hasn't continually scouted the stone, and just now circling back with the scout, and will have the information. And let's see what his reaction's going to be, whether it's just going to be castle, military wing, and just all in with some gulams potentially, now that he knows that Louis is kind of behind in his timing, or if he's just going to kind of continue to play this eco game.
Yeah, and it looks like, Dabs, you were right with the former. It looks like he is going up military wing. And he's got about a minute left. Remember, for the Abbasid, it's a minute 45 seconds, whether you like it or not. So Louis is going to be able to pump out of that 4th town center and his 3 others while that military wing is getting researched. It is nice for the Abbasid, especially in Castle Age. You get a couple of those camo riders, as Roos usually likes to make units on horseback with some early knights and stuff like that. But Louis is very close to getting Castle Age himself, Dabs. He's almost at the 1,200 food he needs.
Yeah, and one thing we noticed is Wham was actually dropping a bunch of stables, so he is definitely one to want to utilize that mobility out on the map. The high trade house starting to be dropped, 18 villagers on it. It's next to the Kremlin, so Haven't had to use any Kremlin militia so far. Wham knows Castle Age is coming down. He has that timing where he'll still beat the High Trade House by a little bit, but not too much considering how much earlier he had started it and how many TCs that Louis ended up investing into.
Yeah, it's funny how the economic count for both these players kind of hovering around 60. There's not a clear leader. Of course, it takes a little bit of time for multiple town centers to pay off. But one of the things that's really good for the Abbasid dynasty, when you're going up to military wing like that in Castle Age, you don't need to spend villagers on it. LoueMT had 18 villagers. So by the time he gets to Castle Age, look how much food he has. He has about 150. Just put a couple into men-at-arms. Whereas Wham on the other side, he queued 9 Lancers.
Yeah, pretty crazy when you say it like that. The walls aren't quite finished yet, so there are some holes to be had, and we know that those Lancers just going to dive right through into that base, not have a worry in the world. Couple villagers still trying to finish the wall will get picked out, and first couple casualties of the game here.
Yeah, we might see that worker kill if he's desperately running for his life around the western side. Men-at-arms are going to be trying to help him out, and it looks like we'll save that villager's life for another day. But the wall's not going up. Those fortified palisades, especially on the eastern side, that is a big gaping hole that Wham can just send Lancers right through. The Camel Riders are giving that little bit of aggression. The western side walls aren't done either. Louis might be in some trouble.
Yeah, he's having to fall back. He doesn't really have that military mass up. Like, yeah, he's got some stuff in the queue, but those aren't kind of some weak units that Wham has on the other side. Those are premium Camel Riders and Lancers. It takes basically 2-to-1 with some of the units that Louis is popping out with, and even still, yeah, he has some TC fire to help with, but you can look at how little damage that TC fire is doing.
Yeah, I mean, when you have Castle Age units, right, some of the town centers isn't going to be as good. It starts, instead of firing arrows like they do in Feudal Age, just where they're firing marshmallows at them. Now, being able to have all of these multiple rating points, Wham doing such a good job. He's keeping his APM high, right? LoueMT had to pull out a lot of those Kremlin gremlins just to make sure his villagers were a little bit safe. They do get that auto upgrade once they get to Castle Age, but they are quite the flimsy warriors. As you can see, a lot of them end up going down. Maybe it gives him the amount of time, a little bit of time he needs to create the defensive units that he needs. You can see he's going into Spearman and Crossbow. And I think that's the comp he really needs to make sure he can continuously come out of those 4 town centers.
Yeah, when he's behind in numbers already, you can't just match with your own knights. He'd still have to get some upgrades as well. He's just trying to play this game defensively, which is expected, investing into the extra town centers. Called the militia. Knights are diving in, just not enough infantry units here yet still. Not enough support from the other side, and all of that frontline mass from Louis gets cleared. The Knights have found the wood line. More militia get called, and Wham falls back for at least a brief second.
Yeah, I mean, it was very frustrating for that fight that Louis had to take on the western side because that Spearman Castle Age upgrade wasn't there yet. I mean, now it is, of course, so it might be able to help him out just a little bit. Louis struggling to keep trying to wall. It's so difficult for him to actually get villagers over there. Wham is continuously having the pressure, where on the flip side, he's using the map control to his advantage. He's got most of the relics, too.
Yep, circles around, hits a good raid onto the berries here, so equalizes that kind of villager lead that Louis was starting to slowly build for himself. And behind this, he's not going to be having to worry about running out of gold like Louis just did, had to move out to another gold vein, or kind of all these other resources, because he gets the whole map right now.
Yeah, he definitely does, and he's using it to an advantage, right? Getting that middle sacred site. But Dabs, while all these raids are going on, look at the top left part of the screen. Wham's going up to Imperial already.
Imperial Age, 4 relics behind this, has the military numbers, and I mean, geez, this just is one that Bruce might be the strong civilization in ones, but Wham is making in regular ones, I guess I should say. But Wham is making Rus look like one of the weak civilizations compared to Abba in Empire Wars.
Yeah, and it's crazy because usually people tout the Rus, especially with the Kremlin, as a civ that's not very raidable or tough to raid, right? Just because you have those militia and all of that to preserve those Roos serfs as they're chopping wood, getting deer, all that kind of stuff. Wham kind of made it look easy, don't you think?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. This is one of those things when you're watching these high elos, these pro players, there's things going on 3-4 different spots that they're microing, they're moving stuff, they're remacroing villagers, and it make it look very easy when you're watching it from afar.
Yeah, no, definitely he does. That fourth town center not being much of a payoff for the Roos. I mean, it did take a decent amount of resources for him. Louis continuously feels on the back foot because of those raids. Didn't really get much of an economic bonus because of it. You could see, I mean, the populations are pretty similar, but looking at the macros for both players, obviously Wham just hit Imperial Age as this sentence turns in from a subject to a predicate. But LoueMT is nowhere near that. He's on 300 food. He feels perpetually behind. He has to continue to pump units to try to get out of his base.
Yeah, I mean, it is just that kind of typical struggle when you invest a little bit too much into your eco and not enough into that military, not enough into that tech advantage. Wham has plenty of archers here with those composite bows and just able to non-stop fire, kill perfect counter unit to everything that Louis has out that he's pushing forward with.
Yeah, what an unbelievably smart choice for Wham going into archers. He was using lancers for all of that time. Now you can see in his queue, he's got absolutely 0 lancers. Feels like he doesn't need them anymore. Made Louis go into spears and crossbowmen. And you talked about the Abbasid composite bows, but how fast they fire, you swear they have a third limb.
Yeah, absolutely. And one great counter to it is a mangonel, and the first shot just crushes the mass, but just some damage done on those. Not any casualties really to speak for.
No, that mangonel, I mean, it did do a good job of getting its rocks off right behind that wall. And a lot of those Abbasid archers were probably at about half health, but we know from looking at archer masses, you need probably about 2 good mangonel shots to really take them down and one hit them. What's nice for Wham, he has an imam there. He can just kind of sit. He can sit back. He can heal up these troops. He feels so far ahead. My question, Dabs, is when does that death push finally, come in for Wham? He's got to get a lot of his Imperial upgrades, which he has. He's got more military. He's got more advanced military. It feels like he can just go in and take the game whenever he wants to.
Yeah, this is one of those that you're saying that from the outside. It's easy to see this when we have that God knowledge where we know everything on the map. Right now, Wham, he knows what he can see. I think he does. He's kind of playing this slow and methodically, the smart way to do this, kind of choke out Louis from resources. I think he was going to kind of play this gold denial game, which Louis actually just secured up an 8k gold vein with that keep here on the east. But Wham immediately rotating some military over that way and might be ready to do some raiding there on that gold vein as well.
Yeah, I think this is kind of a starvation technique for Wham almost. I see this happen a lot against when people are playing English, but for Roos, this also works. Being able to, or having the need to go out to get that gold vein. As long as Wham sees it, and he probably will eventually, he might be able to take it down now. Louis just hitting Imperial Age. Military count for both these guys, 55 to 24. And I think now that he sees Louis hit the Imperial Age, maybe it might be his time to go in there before Louis gets that big Streltsy mass that we all know Roos players love to get.
Yeah, speaking of, it feels like this is when Wham hit Castle, queues up 9 Lancers, Louis hits Imperial, queues up 9 Streltsy, wants to get as many as possible out as they just shred anything and everything they touch.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, quite the satisfying unit. When you have a big, massive Streltsy, you just put them in a line and they turn into a firing squad on anything. Horsemen, just because, remember, they do have that melee, the Streltsy do, and it is a bardiche, if you guys didn't know. It's not just a normal axe, it's a bardiche, and we'll be able to take down a lot of these horsemen. Archers on the other side are the stereotypical cost-effective counter, but if they have just enough firepower, maybe they might be able to take down an archer mass with composite bows. But now Wham trying to get in here with some horsemen. Militia are called. Both of these players are pop-cap. Let's see if Wham can push the initiative.
Yeah, Wham has that culverin on the backside, so even though there is a mangonel, should immediately start to get sniped out, as Wham should be winning this siege superiority. And those composite bows just sniping down everything in their path. Ram slow clearing the TC, but looks like Louie had a couple more Springalds pop on out, able to take down the Culverin, and we'll be able to slow clear the Ram behind this.
Yeah, and that's great with the high armory tech for the Roos, right? Just having the ability to snipe those Culverins out from a very far distance. Louis still has those little bit of crossbows. You saw a lot of them get taken out. There's only a couple left, and I think he's transitioning to Streltsy pretty much, as you can see how many that are in the queue. Those archers, though, very difficult for them to really do some damage. I mean, they are going to take down villagers. They might do a good job of taking down Streltsy, crossbowmen, all that kind of stuff, but you can't really use them as a villager raiding unit. Wham using horsemen, trying to get rid of some gold villagers up there, but Louis already at 140 villagers. I feel like he's okay with losing a couple.
Yeah, but Wham doing a great job again of just keeping Louis inside of his base, not letting him breathe, not letting him get this kind of settled down, able to stabilize feeling. Archer's just able to help take down that Mangonel. Hand Cannoneers starting to join the front lines for Wham, and not only Hand Cannoneers, we're going to see the first cannon come on out for Wham.
Yeah, I think that little bit of firepower is really going to help him. I mean, with the Abysses having the ability to make Culverins and one tap those spearmen from Louis, or those Springalds from Louis, excuse me. Hopefully he just gets into arm's reach. That fourth town center, finally, it's starting to burn, probably going to end up going down. And now we're at the point in this Imperial Age where Wham has to back up, military count actually evening out to about 25 each, 25 to 30 each. They're both going to lick their wounds, get themselves back up to Popcat, maybe get a couple more military production buildings, and we're just going to see these two brutes beat each other over and over again.
Look at some of these techs coming in for Louis. He's starting to get those Roos Ram techs into play, which we know can start to be very, very annoying when it comes to this late game Imperial, post-Imperial timing. That keeps starting to be focused in on. That was where, you know, Wham spotted that out pretty early on and has just slowly made the investments to take it down when the time was right. And the time is right now. Louis, I think, is just making the realization that he's not going to be able to save that. Just give it up, re-macro back into his base, which I think he's feeling pretty good now after some of those timings in the early game. He has stabilized. He has been able to settle down, but doesn't have a bunch more gold secured for himself.
Yeah, and I think that's really going to be the kicker for him. He picked the right part, just like you said, on the eastern side, trying to make sure he's get rid of that gold. Now, Wham, he did see that he went out for that gold. So what does that mean? Get a handle on all of the gold around the map. Make sure Louis can't get there. I mean, Streltsy, they are a little bit cheaper, but they do cost a decent amount of gold. So you can limit that Streltsy mass just because of the economy. Now Louis is trying to push out of his base just a little bit. I see about 18 Streltsy total on the map. Oh, Dabs, look at that horseman flank coming up on the east side. Those Streltsy got to get out of there.
Horseman circle and cut him off right to where the gate is, so there's not really any escape, but they choose to just take the fight, and fight they will. Gold still being denied all over the map, so great job by Wham doing things all over the place, and has slowly been able to push this line back forward, although Streltsy number seems somewhat healthy. It's falling pretty quickly, and you mentioned how expensive those units are, and look at what Wham has been making in comparison. It's been horsemen, it's been archers, not really these high quality, very expensive units.
Right, absolutely. I mean, they're quote-unquote trash units. If you played AoE 2, these are non-gold units. So Wham just taking this gold. You can see the desperation in Louis as we're looking at that top gold mine on the northwest part of the screen. He's feverishly trying to find some gold. He knows if he loses this Streltsy mass, he's not going to have the gold to reproduce them. So every Streltsy that goes down is so important.
Yeah, exactly. Even though Bruce does have that extra wood income ability, that doesn't matter as much when it comes to this late game. Your archers are just going to be outclassed. Your units are just going to be outclassed if you can't have your premium unit, which is that Streltsy. Gate about to be broken down again. The horsemen, they said enough of the gold in the northwest. It is time to head back into the base, back into the main mass of Louis yet again.
Yeah, and I mean, there's some spearmen in the front trying to keep that gate, doing their best Helm's Deep impression, making sure that those horsemen don't quite get there, but those archers with the flaming arrows and composite bows will make quick work of the spearmen. There's a decent amount of horsemen over here that might be able to get a Streltsy surround if they're not too careful, trying to take down some of those Rams also. Those towns are wandering, those Rams up there, but they can't get to any building worth taking down.
Nope, not at all. The Horsemen pretty effective at taking down the Rams compared to a lot of the other units. And Wham, that's the main unit that he is making right now. That Horseman mass we saw earlier run past has hit the farms on the backside. So Louis not going to be able to have that food flowing in for a little bit at least, and Wham's just going to continue this pressure up, continue to poke and prod at all these sides, and we talked about it over and over. Louis is running out of resources just slowly but surely.
Yeah, you can see how much idling was going on. Actually, with that wooden fortress, that mining camp, he's actually able to get a little bit of that gold, which is going to help him out in continuing Streltsy. But those horseman raids, yeah, you idled those farm fields, which is really good. You get those villagers out of the way. But that means Louis' army has to back up, right? Because those farm fields are all the way in the back. So what does that mean? You can see Wham on the southern part of your screen. He's starting to force his way up north. Now he's got a new front line higher than he has been before, and I think a lot of that was just because of the raids that were going on with the horsemen.
Exactly. Still utilizing villagers in the west to deny gold, build outposts, which gives him more vision as well. That fourth TC has been taken down, and Wham probably just going to remass yet again. And yep, there's the raid in onto the gold and just crushing Louis' gold income, his food income, all these different bits of pieces out on the map. And Wham is just push and pulling Louis everywhere and really showing this game too that he wants it to be his.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, take a look at Wham's economy. You can see how much food per minute and wood per minute that you're getting. He can use the gold to do things like get a little bit of hand cannoneers, make sure he's getting the siege that he needs. But he's also operating on almost 3,000 food per minute. So if he loses a couple horsemen, he does not care at all. He is just going to keep pumping out horsemen, whereas that reproducibility for the Streltsy is something that I'm continuing to stress about while watching Louis.
Yeah, look at the gold income. It has cratered for Louis. He is at under 500 gold per minute. He's moving out to the stone. Might be trying to drop a panic keep here in just a little bit. The Streltsy number, it's at 25, and there's not 10 in queue this time. There's 0. He's swapping over to Men-at-Arms, and while Men-at-Arms sound like the great unit against archers, with all these upgrades, with the support of other units, they aren't going to be too effective.
Yeah, I mean, they'll tank a lot of archer arrows, just like you said, but I mean, with the composite bows, they're shooting ever so faster, you know, and they're not going to be the DPS that you actually need to push the line, to push the initiative, right? I mean, Louis, yeah, these are Wandering Town Rams. He's only got 2 of them. I don't know if they're going to take down much of anything, especially with the Culverin in the back shooting cannons at it.
Yep, those villagers just quickly mined out all that stone, trying to rebuild these walls rather fast as well, but the horsemen are still passing through. The Streltsy number about to be into the single digits. He's starting to remass him back up with the little bit of gold he secured yet again, but this is not looking good for Louis. It just feels like he's continuing to put a band-aid on a bullet wound.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that analogy. That was fantastic. We talked about Basin a little bit in Dark Age. Now it looks like Louis pulling the boys, trying to get this keep up. That's a lot of dead villagers, Dabs.
And I think that's the game that goes with it, as he realizes he's not going to be able to stabilize. He's not ever going to be able to push out from this non-stop onslaught that Wham was sending onto his base. And what a great game number 2 to tie up the series.
Oh, man, what a good comeback game from Wham. It felt like game 1 was rather methodical for Louis, but game number 2, Wham showing his teeth on this one. He played this game really methodically as well. The one point that I wanted to make about Basin, those trading posts, they're not very safe. It's not like Louis had the idea or, you know, the map control to do something like trade. He was completely starved.
Yeah, and I think if those trading posts had been in a better position, it might have been even worse for Louis, as ABBA, they are a civ that are actually known to do a bit of trading themselves in some Empire Wars.
Yeah, that's also true. A lot of times for the Roost, they don't really think about trading or doing that kind of stuff until really, really late in the game, where ABBA said they have that in their arsenal pretty much from Feudal Age if they want to. That was such a good game 2 Now we're at a 1-1 tie. I also feel like all of these series are going to be really, like a tug of war almost in game 3, almost looking like a tug of war rope that you can see in the middle of your screen. We're on Canal.
Yeah, Canal's always an interesting map to watch. I feel like when this map first came out, there were all these like, oh, the English is going to be way too strong, and then people realize like, oh wait, your villagers can't actually deny the dock on the other side. The opponent can get all these different kind of strategies have found themselves up, and then Empire Wars gets thrown into the mix. It shakes everything else up. It's like, well, how important is going into water as far as fishing boat economy goes when you're already vaulted into feudal age? Is it that important? Can you just go for an all-in instead? There's kind of all these different things to think about. There's an opportunity cost to everything.
Yeah, the Empire Wars is quite the confounding variable. I remember seeing English on Canal, just like you talked about over and over again. We talked about how, they're the only ones that make men-at-arms, right? Those Vanguard men-at-arms are going to do a really good job against a lot of the spearmen that these other civilizations can make in Dark Age. But take a look at what LoueMT, his civilization that he's playing. He's playing as the Delhi Sultanate, and I really, really hope we see an elephant. But also, those Dark Age fishing boats, they get angry, and they fire arrows, something that the Holy Roman Empire cannot do. So I'm wondering if Louis gets rather aggressive with a dock placement here as the Delhi Sultanate.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I think about, though, is just what I would do if I was playing against that. And I would go, okay, I'm just immediately going to go feudal age because you already have the resources to do so. Then I'll drop my dock and I'll just get an actual military ship out. And if you're going to try to take down my military ship with your fishing boats, well, first, that means that's an economic unit you're not utilizing. And that's a trade you're not going to win.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so interesting how quickly it flips on its head. As soon as the other player goes from Dark Age to Feudal Age, you're like, well, my ship can only fire 1 arrow at a time. You guys could do about 6. So I don't really know what to do here, especially because the Holy Roman Empire and how well they can manufacture resources just because of the inspiration being that increase at 40% in gathering speed. It helps them so well on water just because of the wood economy. It helps them so well with food and gold to get some of those secondary resources to get those military ships out as quick as possible. So we'll see. Maybe does Louis get some damage in Dark Age, stops the Holy Roman Empire from going up, or does Wam able to get up to Feudal Age and really take it to the Delhi Sultanate, who might be a little bit more aggressive? This is a pivotal game 3, Dabs. I'm ready for it.
Yeah, about to jump on here in a second. The big thing I want to be seeing here is the Wam's base. How are those houses going to be? How is that chapel placement going to be able to be with him spawning in on the east side as the Holy Roman Empire? He is in the blue, and he actually has a pretty decent spot for his chapel. Going to be able to get that wood line and going to be able to get the gold. Louis on the Delhi in the west side in the colored yellow again. He is moving out on a dock, so it will be that water investment as expected. Chapel already going down, so like we talked about, we're just vaulting right into that feudal age. Yeah, we might see a few fishing boats, but there's going to be some military ships on the sea, or river, I guess.
That's what's so crazy about Empire Wars, to the point where I don't think I'm ever really going to get used to it. You didn't even finish the introduction, and we're going up to Feudal Age. So we talked about the Delhi fishing ships in Dark Age firing arrows, but to be honest, while doing the pre-game kind of analysis, I didn't realize how much that doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's I was trying to I was trying to hint at it a few times. I was like, it's not gonna matter. I'm just gonna go up to feudal age because it's Empire Wars. It's immediate feudal age. But we're past that now. Where feudal age is actually about to be finished, and I didn't even realize you could drop a dock at this point. Wham's dropping a forward dock, but Louis already investing into a nice wall to try to protect on his side.
Yeah, I actually really like this strategy from Louis. I mean, with the HRE, we talked about their economy just being that little bit better earlier in the gate. So that could translate to more of a military prowess on water, right? He's just trying to make sure that doesn't happen to him. He's trying to get some sort of fishing economy going, because for the Delhi, you need a decent amount of wood to get started, to get a lot of those buildings that you need, to get things like your blacksmith upgrades, to get things like extra mosques if that's what you're doing. Now, Louis going for Dome of the Faith, so he doesn't necessarily need it, but also your military production buildings, because the water is important, yes, but for Delhi, you really want to look at those sacred sites that are on the map and try to maintain some kind of land presence in feudal age as well.
Yeah, and you kind of already mentioned the blacksmith. I think we just saw going down. We got double galley is the first choices, which doesn't really do too much damage to those walls. Is very effective at taking out units and getting that AOE spread and whatnot. But the wall is just barely getting damage, and I think the villager is going to be doing more damage than both of those galleys.
Yeah, based on how much HP is on that wall, it's going to be death by about 1,500 paper cuts. Wham is going into getting himself some springald chips. I mean, you get to a point where, even though this is a very small channel and this is a small canal, we're going to see rock, paper, and scissors coming out from all of these guys. LoueMT, you see the first Bagla coming out on the western side of the map. So hopefully, as this wall starts to go down, he'll have enough of a military prowess where he doesn't get overrun. Villager gets sniped, though. That's a good pickup.
Yeah, nice old pickup there. As obviously, the villager did its job. It built the 2 docks and stuff, but the villager is still a villager. You can't, let that one not be thought about there. Louis, though, he really is not respecting Wham's investment here on the water, and I'm wondering what his plan is. Is this kind of just one of those like bait and switches where yeah, my opponent invested way more into this, because at this point, it looks like Wham's just gonna go up and kill his whole water investment, kill the dock, and now he's gonna do whatever he wants on this whole entire canal.
Yeah, because he's got everything. That demo ship didn't quite hit the Bagla, but did a good job on those archer ships. Those archer ships are going to go down rather quickly. Fishing ships from Delhi, trying to repair that Bagla to the best of their ability. Does have the dock there as well to be able to help him out. But you're exactly right, Dabs. I think you predicted this pretty good. It was a steamroll.
It was, but Wham actually just body blocked both of his galleys. Hasn't focused that fishing boat on the back side, so is getting out healed. The demo pops out, and Wham forced to fall back away, at least for now.
Yeah, I mean, you could take a look at how important Micro is. He's trying to get those Hulks out of harm's way. He's actually trying to split them up, but it gets both of them. Bagla on the west side also goes down. One Hulk goes down for Wham. One's at about 15 to 10% health. He's got to either lick his wounds, but he's actually going for that dock. He wants that dock down.
Yeah, he's starting to save up castle age resources in the bank as well. Doesn't really have the military units that he has out on the field other than water. And Ghazi Raiders are headed across the map. Ghazi Raiders are across the map. They're on the villagers attempting to build this wall, and Wham doesn't quite have that exact timing he needs, has to fall back away from the gold, and doesn't have the 600 gold he needs for castle.
Yeah, these Ghazi Raiders that you're pointing out did take down a couple villagers. We'll be able to take down these horsemen as well. This is like the anti-HRE unit, right? The Delhi had such a problem with feudal age men-at-arms and going up against men-at-arms in general while trying to get these sacred sites. But now with Ghazi Raiders having that little extra, it's only +2 against those heavy units, but that +2 actually makes a difference to those feudal age men-at-arms. So he's able to establish a little bit of map control and get some of that presence and disrupt Wham at the same time. It feels like with Louis, we're watching this really pro player do Delhi because he's on 4 different parts of this map.
Yeah, there are indeed 4 sacred sites on this map. He's starting to capture 2 of them, I believe, and will move out slowly to the other 2. But Wham has secured up the water fully for himself. Hasn't really been investing into like fishing boats or anything of the sort. But those military ships, you can see how effective they are just at providing vision, providing that insight into the base, and he can just sit on those forward production buildings.
Yeah, I think that might come to haunt Louis a little bit later in the game because he's not fighting for water anymore. Wham's going to continue to buff up his fishing economy and hopefully do some damage once he gets to Castle Age. But that canal comes up very, very high compared to where your base is for the other player. So if he can just park a couple Hulks there maybe as we get deeper into the age, some of the really strong military ships might be able to take out some of not only the production, but just the units that come out of it. So Delhi can't get that mass that they really need.
Yeah, it's just very, very annoying when you have to deal with that. We just saw a Scholar starting to be poked down as well, but all this time, Wham's going up with Regnants. He's about halfway there, and Louis, he's not too far off of being able to drop his own Castle Age, but he's been securing the map. He's got walls on the Sacred Site in the south. He's trying to start wall on the Sacred Site in the north, and that's nonstop gold income that will just continuously flow in for him.
Oh yeah, I mean, for how many sacred sites there are at 125 gold a pop.
Oh, the
makes it pretty good.
surround on the galley, and we see both of the galleys actually getting taken out.
That galley, it was fidgeting over there. It had no idea where to go. It really couldn't go anywhere. You're seeing the military mass for Louis reigning supreme and actually taking down some boats, but with Wham, he had to sacrifice that little bit, took it up to castle, and now is adding stables. We're probably going to see a knight transition, something that the HRE loves to do. And if you're the HRE with that Regnant's Cathedral, there's one way to counteract the sacred sites, and it's getting those religious artifacts.
Yes, it is. He is bringing in the first one, but as Vodka just highlighted up at the top, look at the military difference right now by Louis. He has the full map control. He's about to match this castle timing here in just a little bit, or match Castle Age, I guess I should say, with his own. And once he's Castle Age, that unlocks so many things for the Delhi.
Yeah, I mean, they can quickly go into those anti-heavy units, things like crossbowmen, immediately out of the gate, and having the ability to efficiently produce them means that when you're at a military count that is so substantially higher, it's going to keep going. But now that he has that land superiority, he's able to take down the fishing economy from Wham. Louis doing good here.
Yeah, he's kind of, this is that perfect timing where you want to pressure HRE. They go to castle, and that's not your time to go, oh crap, let me try to match this. It's let me continue pressure, and then behind this, I will get my Castle Age as it comes, and that's where Compounded Defender, 10 villagers on top of it. Once that finishes, Louis is going to be able to click up all the free techs as well, so doesn't even need the gold. All the gold he's getting in, that's going to go straight to units.
Yeah, that's one of the things that make Delhi an economic powerhouse. Once you get those sacred sites, all you do is you can put them into units. In feudal age, when you have those sacred sites, you can make a market and just sell it off to have more of a military that's getting efficiently produced. It's a really good snowball kind of sieve that can turn into an avalanche. With villagers that he has, he's doing okay. I mean, he's got about 50 villas to Wham's 47, going up with the Compounded Defender. And another big power spike for Delhi is when you can get village fortresses and start cranking vills out of them.
Yeah, and so this on Canal, there always gets to this point in the mid game, which we're starting to get there, where your wood line at home is about to run out. You have to start moving out on the map. You're going to start running lower on your gold, your food at home, and you're going to have to start moving out, and there's not a lot of food on this map. So it will become this worrisome part. We're going to see some of these knights getting taken down by these Ghazi Raiders, even though they're feudal age Ghazi Raiders still. They just have that extra damage with their maces.
Yeah, look at how much damage they're actually doing to this Castle Age unit. Now, I mean, I understand it was 5 Ghazi Raiders to 2 Knights, so obviously they had the advantage, but just that little bit of extra damage to heavy means that those Knights aren't that superior #1 all-powerful unit. You could just throw 1 or 2 in a particular area and clean up a feudal army. The Delhi can lick their wounds and take them out.
And look at the relic number down at the bottom side. Wham's timing, he was that much earlier with Castle, still only able to secure himself 2 relics. Louis got 3 with his scholars currently, and actually Wham, he might not even get that relic back in, as still getting denied by those Ghazi Raiders. What an unbelievable job so far. Another prelate's there to pick it back up, but all of this is delay, and Wham is not getting that gold income in that he wants.
Yeah, you're exactly right. That's all this is delay. And the delay is really important, especially with the Regnant's Cathedral pumping out so many. Wham doing a good raid, though, over on the south side. Couple vills going down.
Yeah, I mentioned that those wood lines going to be scary once you start moving out, and Wham punishes it exactly when Louis moves out a little bit earlier to a wood line. He did have one of his scholars get denied, and then the second one gets taken out right as it throws the relic into the bank. 2 more knights taken out. Good little surround there by Louis, but he has bled a good amount of villagers in the past couple minutes.
Yeah, he's bled some villagers, and you can see he's at about 46 villagers now. Louis actually had a +5 villager lead probably about a minute ago when we were last talking to him. But now Wam with +10, those HRE villagers do a little bit better than most other villagers because of that inspiration. And I think for Louis, too, he's got to spend villagers on getting food, right? Where Wam doesn't because of his fishing economy. Now he's trying to get some keeps up, trying to get some map control, take a sacred site. He's going to lose a decent amount of villagers because of this, but I think that keep's still going to go up.
Keep's going to go up, but we just talked about how many villagers he lost right before this. Think about how many more. That's not just 1 or 2 knights on his villagers. That's 4 to 7 almost as more reinforcements coming in. However, on the other side of the map, Louis getting some damage down onto the gold vein. The keep does finish. And Village Fortress is soon after, I think.
Yeah, it will come in. It's probably got about 3 minutes, I would say, left. But Wam losing some villagers. Also, worker kill count 19 to 12 in favor of Wam. So some good economic units, whether they be fishing boats or otherwise, end up going down. Now, Louis continuing to stay high on this military count, right? He's got about 2.5 times just about what Wam has. So with this archer mass, and he's got a couple crossbowmen in there with Ghazi Raiders as well, he's got to make this count. If he can get a counter raid and normalize the villager count, village fortresses can help propel him in the right direction, but it's all about taking good fights. I think Louis got a good one to take right here.
And I think Wam agrees that this was a good fight for Louis. He saw the writing on the wall, didn't really see a way back into the game for himself, wasn't having that same military number. And what a clean, I mean, not, I wouldn't say clean game by Louis, but what an interesting game, and what a way to play it with Delhi.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like these are Delhi games in a nutshell. You know, everything, like, there's so many points of interest that you have to worry about. So with Louis and Canal, there's 4 sacred sites, plus the water he's got to deal with, plus his macro, plus trying to make sure he's got all the military count. And to be honest, but looking at this military count here on this graph, he had about somewhere around 40 to 50 throughout the mainstay of this game. He did a great job.
Yeah, I mean, this military graph tells the whole story. It's just he got elevated, he hits Castle Age, and he just stays having the military number. And after Castle Age, a lot of those units got transferred into those Castle Age units now, getting free Castle Age upgrades. And Wam wasn't able to secure relics, really. He didn't have that 3 relic minimum that you really want, especially when Delhi had 3 sacred sites all that time. So he's winning on the passive gold income. He's winning on all these passive other bonuses as well.
Yeah, I think the relics were really important, just like you said. Also, having empty corridors in that Regnitz Cathedral is just, you're not going to get that many tourists. You're not going to get that much gold generation coming out of that. Now, Louis on match point. Here, we're going in game 4. He's got a 2-1 lead. Not sure about this matchup, though. However, it's French versus Ottomans. And now Vodka's taking a look at the standings. So why don't we all take a look at what's going on? A little bit of an update. Vortex and Magic have a 2-0 commanding lead in the Rain Robin stage, while Nubidon and Flash will drop down to 0-2. Vortex and Magic, man, they're 2 fantastic players. I mean, all 4 of these players, everybody who makes it to the group stage obviously has prime talent. Vortex and Magic showing their strength, flexing their muscles, getting up 2-0.
Yeah, I think that round 1, though, was an eye-opener for a lot of people, though, that, you know, as in one's tournaments, you expect these names like Vortex to 3-0 someone like Flash most of the time, but Flash able to take a game off him, had a closer series than he wanted, and I'm sure the same could be said for Magic versus Nubidon there as well.
Yeah, I think Nubidon is one of those players that, when you take a look at it, he had some series, he had a 3-2 against Magic, so it could have went either way for that one, right? So we could be looking at a very different bracket if one game went differently, if one particular battle went differently, right? So this is why we play the group stages. This is why we have best of 5s, you know, because these players, this tournament can go either way for either direction for a lot of players that are here. But Magic doing a good job taking the 2-0 on that one. Back to this series, however, not Group D. This is Group F, where the winner, both of these players being 1-0, take a 2-0 commanding lead, has fate in their hands getting into that round robin stage. So this is a pivotal game.
Yeah, and typically you would kind of lean towards Auto in this matchup a little bit, just good against French in general, but don't really have that same delay that they're able to cause compared to the normal ones with Empire Wars. French starts out with a few extra villagers because they're passive bonuses, and so are really kind of able to jump out on the map like they want to do.
Yeah, and I think with the French, I mean, you're always going to talk about, when we're talking about the French, you're always going to talk about how good their knights are, right? Obviously, they have Royal Knights. You can get Royal Institute. They can get Pseudo-Imperial Knights. Yeah, they're really good. We know that since 2021. Ottomans, on the other hand, have a really good unit composition to try to take out Knights. Things like Janissaries that get that increased bonus. So we'll see how many Jans and how much gunpowder we see into this game. But coming up on Game 4, Wam playing as the color blue and the Ottoman spawning in the south side of the map. His opponent in this pivotal Game 4 playing as the French in the color yellow is LoueMT, spawning on the northeastern side of the map. And you are right, rather interesting as far as Empire Wars. French just gets 3 bills. It's pretty nice.
It's necessary. They don't have the other economic bonuses. When you think about other civilizations that are like English start with farms and, you know, all these other kind of inherent passive bonuses, well, French, they would have had 2 or 3 extra vills at this point already. And we're already starting to see a little bit of a school of cavalry change on the location. Both feudal ages being dropped as expected. French already getting early wheelbarrow. As every game Louis has played, he has been going for that early wheelbarrow.
Yeah, and I think for a civilization like the French, wheelbarrow is even better. You know, I mean, we'll get to a point later in this game, probably in the next minute or two, where when the sheep run dry, they got to be trying to get those pocket food ecos, because doing a farm transition for the French, I wouldn't wish that on anybody. It's a rather difficult thing to get going. So going out to those pocket food resources are going to be good. And also, they're going to need to get stone rather quickly if they want to go up for the second town center, really exploit that increased production speed of villagers.
Speaking of stone, Louis already out onto that stone and prepping that second town center play here in just a little bit. Wam, he's pretty heavy on the stone as well, and you normally think, well, stone for Ottomans, it's going to be military schools. No. They in Empire Wars, they like to drop their T, and in general, they don't mind having an extra TC themselves. It obviously doesn't quite have that kind of same prowess as other civs, but they're still getting some military pressure with their military schools and providing annoyance.
Yeah, that second TC, I mean, you talk about each civilization, and just because of how unique they are, their economic bonuses come rather unique. And the Ottomans with the military schools, they have that unique economic bonus because their units are free. Well, not all of them, but some of them. For having a second town center as well, with all of the production buildings you get around Blacksmith, because the Ottomans really train you to get a lot of military production buildings, you can endlessly produce out of them, and you can end up stopping that French snowball. And LoueMT starting to try to get that snow packed. He's got a couple knights coming out and a couple archers as well, trying to stop a second town center from happening. But in Empire Wars, when second town centers come up at about 3 minutes flat, going to be rather difficult.
Yeah, and that knight already met by those few spears from the military school. After the town center's up, Wam just gets to full focus on the military as Louis kind of invested into a few units. It's cool with Empire Wars. You're able to invest in your military and into your economy instead of having to kind of choose one or the other. I find in ones now, people have kind of given up the early military and focused on kind of being as greedy as possible, trying to take the least damage, getting that extra TC or up to Castle Age or whatever it may be.
Yeah, and I think this game really allowed... Oh, my goodness. We're seeing another yoink, ladies and gentlemen. LoueMT with professional scouts taking down more deer from the Ottomans. And for Wam, how do you financially recover from this?
You know, I actually love the pro scouts play on this map even more. With we can already see it with the map, little mini map on the right side. You have your berries on the east, and you have a bunch of these small deer packs on the west. You're able to secure up those small deer packs where you wouldn't want to build multiple mills and go out very, very far out, but you still are able to know exactly where they are, and it's not like Wam's really going to want to go deny that western side either where the deer are.
Yeah, absolutely right. I really like it on regions for all of those reasons. Actually, you gave really good points to that. And I mean, those little deer icons that you can see on the western side, they're only 3 deer, but if you notice, LoueMT only has 4 scouts. So he's going to be able to take each patch over and over again, and it gives a little bit of stability to the French, who need so much of a food economy because they don't get any discounts on making villagers. Their knights cost 140 food a pop. They need all of the extra food they can possibly get to start the steam rolling. So Louis, I think, again, he's got a strategy here.
Yeah, I mean, food denial is always a great strategy, especially against the Ottomans, who... The Ottomans are a civilization that obviously they have the twin minaret. It's really, really nice. It gives them food for the whole game. But you don't just rely on that much food when you're getting into these huge feudal age military wars. You're going to need more than that. And there's only one other berry pack other than the one next to his TC that he can really maybe safely secure without going all the way to the eastern side.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a big swing, Pro Scouts is, especially when taking that deer pack, because you're exactly right. The Ottomans have similar issues that the French do in those late feudal going out to those outside food resources. So he might be forced just because he knows there's Pro Scouts. He knows those western deer might get taken. He has to go get the area, that berry patch, that the food income just isn't quite there. And now LoueMT, with some of his feudal age superiority, he does have a decent amount of knights, decent amount of archers. You can see the army value just a little bit higher. Going to be going for a ram trying to take down that town center.
Yeah, and I love this by Louis. It's really crazy thinking that, like, usually when you see these plays, you would assume a ram. Well, we're starting to see the first villager pit get taken down, but when you see these ram plays, usually it's like a 1 TC all in. You can't really choose one or the other, but Louis, he's just saying, no, I can do both. I'm going to push up forward, and I'm going to have my second TC and eco behind this.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing 2 different complete strategies. LoueMT doing a really good job with his macro and using all of the resources that he's gathering. I could see multiple instances where if you look at the top right part of your screen, he had less than 100 resources of everything. He's using all of his resources. Wam on the other side is not. He's going up with the MIA. He stockpiled 1,800 resources, and he's trying to get some superiority in Castle Age. He knows that if he adds some of those anti-cavalry units, Louis is not going to be able to truck through this base.
Not even just the anti-cav units. If he just adds his own Castle Age cavalry units, the archers are going to be worthless. The knights are going to be outclassed until they can get their own Castle Age upgrade. And so as long as he can kind of get those numbers up, then that's the only unit that he's really going to need.
Yeah, and I think he has the military production buildings to do so, Dabs. Like, he's going to be able to get a mega. Now, Louis smelling that Castle Age. So he's smelling blood in the water, sending 3 rams in this particular direction. Town center trying to get some defensive fire. But if you take a look at military count here, Wam only has a little bit of spearmen. He's trying to get those Ottoman lancers underway, but they are still in the stable getting produced.
Yeah, and only 3 in the well, 5, I guess, now being produced. He feels like he has to take this fight. Look at how fast that TC just got taken down with those 3 rams. And it's not just going to be the TC. It's the production. It's the blacksmith. It's everything behind it next. And that's what Ottomans really relies on, is that production and the blacksmith. Fortunately for him, the military schools are on the backside. Louis still has the knight numbers. I was talking about it. He's going to need another round of these lancers to come out to feel like he can actually take this fight.
And I'm surprised because Louis is still continuing to go all in with feudal. You can see a couple spearmen that actually got queued. You can see there's a lot of lancers of the Castle Age variety for Ottomans, and you can see Sipahi that also might get upgraded in the near future as well. But exactly right, if he takes down those stables, it's going to be a little difficult for him to do that. Adding spearmen means those knights won't get trampled. Those feudal age royal knights, they are of a lesser class, like you said, but he's trying to not take a head-on engagement. But it looks like Wam trying to go back on the other side. He's just trying to keep his base safe at this point. If he's able to just survive for a little bit longer, gets that Lancer mass, he can really stop the French from getting to the point where their base gets ravaged. But this is a 50-50. I have no idea what's going to happen here.
I mean, Wam had 7 villagers rebuilding that stable, so you can see how important it is. But those French knights, that extra charge bonus damage, able to take down some of the knights on the other side. There's still a few spearmen there, just enough archers to, I think, one-shot the spearmen still. And now Louis has his own spearmen arrive, which makes it hard for Wam to take these engagements again and again.
Yeah, because those Lancers for the Ottomans, you see, they're focusing on the feudal age knights. They have a little bit of tankiness to stay there, but the spearmen are providing the DPS. The spearmen are the things that are really taking them down. Military count 33-9, where Wam doesn't have any kind of military use to take down the ram, so he's pulling the boys, but Mangonel going to be able to come out for Wam, give him a little bit of siege superiority. So it's going to be a little bit difficult for French if he really wants to push this base with a Mangonel sitting right by that hometown center.
Yeah, spearman number is no longer a thing. Wam, he's trying to move out to the berries. You could see he's hurting onto the food. This is the perfect timing, and Louis, he has the map control. He's moved out to the food on the east, moved out to the boar, moved out to the berries, and non-stop unit mass. Units being pushed further and further forward. It's 40-16. Looks like he's about to go for another death push yet again. Archers, though, were front-lining, took a Mangonel shot. Not what they needed to, but Knights are still diving on past. Wam having to fall back. He just went out to those berries, and the outpost immediately gets taken down. Knights headed towards potentially that Mangonel. Spears headed that way too, and Wam is looking like he is in some trouble.
Yeah, those spearmen were full speeding ahead towards that Mangonel, trying to take him down. Military count continuing to stay in the single digits for him. There's enough spearmen here to counteract these Lancers. Castle Age are otherwise military count down to 4. Those stables, they're getting burned down. There's no stables up here for forward production. Wham's got to use all of his villagers with torches to try to take down those rams, which is all fine and good. Those rams go down, but you're still not getting resources when you're throwing torches.
Yeah, look at his food per minute. He's at 546. Yes, he has those military schools still pumping, but Louis at 1,800 food per minute. He could just idle production for less than a minute and go up to Castle Age, and he'll be good to go, equalized on the same tech.
Yeah, this feels suffocating for Wam right now, and a lot of it is just because of the map that we're playing, right, in regions, just because those outside food resources are so far away. A couple of Janissaries are out for Wam, however. I don't know if he's producing it for the military
he thought the deer were there.
Oh, that's devastating.
Oh no, he thought the deer were there. You could see how 200 food per minute. He can't make units.
He was really counting on those deer to be there. He's got to get forward berries now from both different patches. And you could look at the food per minute just like you highlighted. Louis being at 2,000. Wam being at 33 total with about 400 per minute. This is tough.
Yes, it is. That being said, Louis, he ran out of his initial gold. He's having to move out to this next further gold vein in the middle that he took. But this is a point where Wam has now had some time to stabilize. Wam, he's got 8 Janissaries out. I'm scared for Louis to actually take that head-on engagement without having that full big archer mass there. And I kind of feel like this is the point where Louis, he kind of just starts to defend on up. He goes up to castle now after knowing he took down the TC. All this time, he's been double producing behind this, and Wam hasn't been.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought too. I mean, you did a large amount of economic damage, right? And he's continuing to put on economic damage just with night raids. He's not trying to full steam ahead, push into your hometown center and kill it. Killing these villagers are so important. That back gold vein just becomes extinct, and a lot of those villagers end up scurrying away, surprisingly, with their lives.
Yeah, luckily for those villagers. The knights, though, they ran into those Janissaries. You could just see how much damage they do. Crossbows there into the mix as well. But there it is. The guild hall is the choice from Louis. He says, if this game extends, I want to have that resource bank. I want to have the resources that I will need, as this is definitely a finite resource map, as there's no markets in the corners, and the guild hall could pay off long term. Yeah,
and I mean, if you're Louis, you're cool with this game extending, right? I mean, look at the economic count. Just like you said, it's been 2 town centers to 1 for a considerable amount of time. Economic count 95 to 69. Nice. Louis also in that middle, going to be able to get the gold where regions are. Wham trying to do some counter raids, trying to raid himself back into the game, but it's going to prove a little bit difficult for him to do that. He's going to take down a decent amount of villagers to get himself in there.
Yeah, and we already saw those initial gold veins being run dry. Well, now this is where having the map control is all that much more important, and Wham doesn't have the military units to kind of take that back once Louis gets these upgrades. And oh no, you could see how much he needs that food. He has to move all the way to those East Berries. Feels like those villagers are going on a marathon as far as getting over to those, getting over to that food resource.
Yeah, and I mean, for Wham, this is make it or break it, right? For this pivotal game 4, he's going to need some of those berries. Obviously, the deer, you can see those icons shrinking over there on the western side because of Pro Scouts not even thinking about going in that particular direction. For Wham, I think he's got to be thinking this is his time to strike, just because Louis just went Castle Age. Those upgrades have not been completely materialized yet. They will be in just a few seconds. But Wham has siege superiority as well, something that French, we're seeing no siege engines out here.
Yeah, the double mangonel is what really could prove to be the difference. We just see a ton of villagers, I think, over there in that area. So mangonels need to try to locate some of that. But just as Wham had moved out to the berries, Louis starts to pressure up. He's got his military mass there, starting to gather stone, most likely for a keep for his production. But Wham losing more villagers, actually starting to probably fall further and further behind on the Vilmass, and Louis just needs to hold this death push.
Yeah, and it's pretty interesting with the Ottomans having the military schools, how much military they can mass at such a villager deficit. You know, that's really is the eco bonus for them. Some villagers going down from LoueMT on the southern side trying to gather that stone. With those mangonels, he can continue to keep pushing. And Wham also adding Springalds. Oh my God! Look at this.
That's his whole food. That's what we keep saying. He has to move out to the food. He can't transition to farms right now, and he is just hurting so heavily. But at the same time, pushing in. Mangonel, first one gets taken down. There is a Springled out. Second one takes a fire, has to fall back away, and this is all Louis needs to push back out and potentially secure the series.
Yeah, that Springold is really MVP, right? That Mangonel was the one reason why he was continuing to push. Look at Louis' archery mass right now. He's got 35 archers of the veteran variety and starting to add in some arbaletrier as well. Now Louis is going to be able to smell blood in the water with his own siege. I don't think there's an MIA that can work quickly enough to get enough free siege to really take it to him.
Oh, Spears get a nice brace in, but not really going to be able to finish the rest of those units. Another Mangonel shot, able to land, get a decent connection on in. Archers are just running up into their own oblivion, it seems like.
Yeah, there's nothing up front to try to take him. I mean, there only is a few crossbowmen, so those Lancers from the Ottoman Empire are going to be able to tank a decent amount of damage, force them to back up. It's a good thing he didn't lose a lot of them. You know, it could have been a rather devastating overextend for him. But now on the flip side, it looks like Louis just adding more so in the way of siege. And where is his food? That's a good question.
I feel like he's finally running lower on those deer that he had brought on home. He doesn't really have a ton of food secured for himself either. And that's actually where Ottomans, they're going to have a better situation because their military schools are pumping. And so if Louis starts falling behind in that department, this is Wham's win condition. Just steamroll with your military and call game that way. Take control of the 3 middle gold veins, and then he's going to have the premium units, the kind of superiority in that regards.
Yeah, and I mean, the military schools make sure your military stays up, so you're never quite out of it. In terms of map control, Wham trying to get in to this western side, completely walled off. Very good call by LoueMT as well. It looks like both of them are struggling to try to get some berries over here on the eastern side. You have outposts going up from both of these guys, but this middle part of the region where these big gold veins, 24,000 gold in a very small radius of area, this always becomes the pivotal point of the take on this map.
Yeah, and I felt like this game was going so well for Louis, but this is the point where he has some holes in his game plan. It's starting to kind of have some vulnerability. There's some points that Wham's starting to kind of take advantage of. This being another one of those, Ram should just get cleared up. Outpost should get cleared up soon after that, and Louis needs farms behind this, and he needs a lot of them.
Yeah, and I think that's the rather difficult thing for the French, too, that we talked about in Dark Age. I mean, Louis, you can see how much wood he has per minute right now. He's got about 1,900 because he's going for a mass farm transition, right, with those deer finally running out. The berries aren't as safe as they used to be. Those pocket ecos for French that they really rely on, especially the late feudal age, the early castle age, they're not safe. So he's got to use all those villagers back up, lose a couple villagers in the process while trying to get all of the wood to make farms. But that just means you got to slow down on military production at a time when he really can't do that.
One thing I did just see in the corner of that picture, 4 mangonels, though. Makes very hard to do a death push when you have that much siege. It's kind of like what we saw him do with China with the Nest of Bees. He's just kind of balling up, starting to play that defensive game. He does have the time. If he can give himself time, he should be able to have this farm transition no problem.
Yeah, and hopefully it does with the mangonels. I mean, you can see a lot of farmlands over here by the hometown center, but they're getting raided. Those fields have to be vacated yet again, and those lancers for the Ottoman Empire, they have quite the amount of ranged armor, so they could sit under that town center. They can even take a couple spearmen that are getting waypointed in that particular area. So Louis still struggling on the food, getting bottlenecked. Wham on the other side at about 1,200. It looks like he's got all 4 of his resources pretty locked down right now, so he can continue to keep going up on that military count. And it looks like he's trying to take it right to this keep. I don't know if I would take that.
Oh, mangonels, though, focused on the front line and the knights and not the janissaries, not the crossbows on the backside. Wham's starting to push forward, though, and again, he's still, it's hard to push with the ranged mass into what Louis has out.
Yeah, and you're right with the siege superiority. 2 Springolds from Louis just to 1 of Wham's. That Springold gets popped. Mangonel gets popped into essentially kindling. So LoueMT can get a stranglehold on this area of regions, and Wham, even though he does have those sacred sites, he is getting that sacred victory, which is approaching to 8.5 minutes. He's got to go around that keep with this ranged mass, and I'm not really sure how much damage he's going to be able to do with that.
Yeah, I feel like Louis has gotten that farm transition behind based on what the map looks like. He just needs those villagers to be able to be on those farms for a bit of time. Yep, you can just see the food climbing high for both of them. He's already at 1,500 food per minute. Wham's up to 1,300, so kind of back to the points we were at before. And this is what's allowing Louis to start to push back up, to start to pump those military numbers back up again too.
Yeah, and I think he'll have the ability to do that. I mean, you can see he's queuing more archers and actually adding men-at-arms for the French, which is rather different. I mean, you can understand when you're playing against Ottomans, probably going as any cavalry, whether knights or horsemen, probably not a good idea.
Yeah, and I will say the French men-at-arms, they're rare seen, but they're very cool-looking units. I actually might say they're one of the coolest-looking men-at-arms, so always glad when you get to see the rare side of them.
Yeah, you can see them in that composition. They have a feather in their cap and a sword in their hand, looking for both the Sipahi, Janissaries, archers alike to try to take some of them down. Now, Wham does have a little bit more Springolds right now. He's got 4. He might be able to pop some mangonels. This is a little bit of back and forth in regions that might be because of siege. It might just be because of army, but that middle ground is going to be such a pivotal point. But I love what Wham's doing, trying to get a raid over there on the east side while taking this big battle. When you're doing 2 things at once, it's splitting up the mental gymnastics of AoE 4 that we all know and love. So we'll see if he's able to get some good villager picks too.
Yeah, and it looked like Louis was just pulling about 30 villagers over to that gold vein. He pulled his military back, but didn't pull the villagers back. And so a lot of that villager difference starting to slowly disappear. Not to mention all of the passive bonuses that Wham has. All of a sudden, he's clicking up to Imperial.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good point. It just shows how important having military schools and having them produce the most efficiently with all the vizier points that you can do. Having the Imperial Observatory means you could start cranking out units, and we all know what happens in the Ottoman Empire when Imperial Age hits. It's those massive, giant, big bombards that are going to be banging on Louis' front gate.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard of some funny builds that's basically like naked fast imp with military schools, and you have the MIA, and then you just basically go mass great bombards, and it's actually funny how well it can work at times. But Wam, he's the one getting to be on the front foot. He's the one raiding the French, which if you are French and you haven't been on your opponent's side of the map in 10 minutes, not a good look. Trying to drop a forward, keep securing up some of this gold for himself. It is that kind of panic, I need this or I'm gonna lose keep, but there's 2 rams on it already. Springalds push away the siege mass on the other side. The keep goes up, and Louis, I guess, feels good for a second, but Wam is Imperial now.
Yeah, and I mean, with enough rams, as soon as that keep went up, you could see it crumble just a little bit. So he's got to use some stone to try to repair that. One thing I want to point your direction to, Dabs, just because of how pivotal this gold is, how pivotal this map is, the French need gold. They need that exterior gold. They don't get it passively. Louis been sitting on about 100 gold per minute over the past few minutes.
Yeah, he has. You could see when he pulled. I think I said like he just pulled 30 villagers to that gold. Like he couldn't. That was when his other miniature gold vein ran out, and he just didn't have anywhere to go. He doesn't have any of those premium units. He's dropping a red palace with a ton of units. But
I mean, you saw the guild hall just give him about 4,000 gold, so that really gave him the ability to get the red palace. And with 42 villagers building this thing, every keep, town center, and palace alike for the French Empire is gonna pew pew on some units.
Yeah, but the mangonels, they're immediately all getting sniped out. The ranged mass of Wams is allowing to push forward. Louis, he's got a big mass of spears coming forward to help support it, but the red palace goes up. Villagers have continued to go down. Wam is up to 80 villager kills now.
Oh my god, and 2 of those Springles from Wam just popped out of thin air. That red palace with those arbalest implants, you know, along with some of these keeps too. This is going to be a very difficult thing for Wam to actually push through now.
Oh, and there's
he does
one of
have
them.
the great bombards.
Yeah, so that will do a great job at taking down those keeps, but if that gets taken out, Wam's going to struggle at getting a bunch of siege back out on the map because Louis going to be able to pump Springled after Springled after Springled, and Wam can only just wait on the MIA because he has no gold secured right now.
Yeah, I mean, for as long as LoueMT has had a hold on these gold mines, right? On that western gold mine, it looks like Wam did the best he could with the Ottoman keep. The Red Palace obviously going to be devastating that keep in due time, but you're exactly right. I mean, you got to wait for the MIA and those bombards. Even if you are going to produce them out of a siege workshop, they're not exactly cheap units, right? There's only so many that you can make when you're actually paying full cost for them. So I think for Louis, again, it's about reproducibility. If Louis has the ability to take down these bombards, it's going to be difficult for Wam to reproduce them. So if he has that big fight in Imperial Age between both of these guys, maybe we'll see a shift in power and a shift in these gold mines. But that Great Bombard already took down one keep, going after the Red Palace next, which apparently does not have the range for those Great Bombards, so it's taken a shellacking.
And those villagers taking a shellacking as well as all of these gold villagers. They're just left out to dry. I don't want to be a villager for LoueMT because they're all dead.
Yeah, it makes me think, oh my god, it makes me think there might have been a connection issue more than anything because of how many villagers end up going down. Louis has 66 villagers. What is happening?
I mean, Wam just went from 80 to 122 vill kills in the blink of an eye. And all of a sudden, Louis' economy's devastated. And Wam, he's the Ottomans. This is great for him because there's no way that he can get outproduced now.
Yeah, I mean, he's got more villagers and he's got free units, right? Military count 61 to 50 out of these guys. Great Bombard can do really well against range mass. We'll see that big cannon take a shot. A lot of those spearmen just get mopped up. It means those Sipahi have free reign over that ranged mass. Hand cannoneer, arbaletier, archers alike, doesn't matter. If you can shoot something, you're dead.
And dare I say, will our first series of the day be going all the way to game number 5 as it looks like Wam starting to secure this victory for himself. He's reclaimed the central gold, and we know French without gold is basically nothing, but more importantly, French without map control is definitely nothing.
Yeah, I mean, any civ without map control, without economic count, without military count, I mean, you're you're basically giving up the province of regions at this point. More keeps going down. There's no way for him to get back into this, right? I mean, these archery ranges, these military production buildings are going down. There's no production out of LoueMT at all. It begs the question, not really sure what's happening here, but it looks like a tap out.
It is a tap out. Game number 4 goes over to Wham, and he is taking it the distance. We will be seeing game 5 here in just a little bit, and look at the villager count. In a lot of matchups, it doesn't tell the whole story, but in this matchup, it kind of does. This is the way the game went. Louis had a great all-in during that castle age that Wham had, and definitely just kept the pressure up for a while. Ended up giving up the map control after that, and then just really never recovered back.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It was very difficult after that. I mean, for French, you lose the gold, you lose the game, right? And that's pretty much what happened. You could see that military count just take a swan dive. Military count looking like a cliff over there for him, and then villager count obviously doing the same because of the amount of gold villagers that end up getting taken down. It was a really good back and forth on regions. You had some feudal age aggression with some rams going on. You had a town center going down. There was pro scouts. The game had everything, Dabston, and now we have to follow it up with a pivotal game 5 match point for both these guys.
And what a great map to finish it up on. It's just plain Jane, dry Arabia, and 2 civilizations that are known for kind of, I would say, like just brawling it out too. Delhi, they want the map control. Mongols, they want the map control, and they're going to have to battle over it.
Yeah, I mean, while we're kind of waiting for this game to get started up, I'm very curious to see what the Mongols do when Dark Age becomes Feudal Age, because they only have that 40 seconds where they start going up to Feudal Age. So it feels like in the Tower Rush variety, we're probably not going to see that. Right? I mean, Delhi is a civilization that is susceptible in a 1v1 situation to tower raids, or tower rushes, I should say. Yeah. Now that we're probably not going to see that, I'm curious to see how this game develops in Feudal Age without the Mongols getting that immediate map control that a tower rush does.
Yeah, my guess it's almost like how Mongols kind of started to turn into it. My assumption here, I haven't watched many, if any, Mongols Empire Wars games, but Deerstones into still potentially going into some trade with the market, but the Deerstones just to boost up all of your economy. You already start with a couple pastures, so you got some nice food eco for a little bit of time. And obviously now the Mongols, they have those Keshiks, so they really do have a mobile unit that can be useful in multiple different ways.
Yeah, it was so funny, actually. The last time me and you casted Mongols together, I want to say it was, I don't know, maybe a month or 2 ago, but we talked about how Mongols in seasons of old just like to skip Feudal Age, right? They would do their tower raid, they do their tower rush, whatever, try to get up to castle as quickly as possible because that's when they actually get a power spike. Now for the Mongols, they don't need to do that with the implementation of Keshiks. Ghazi Raiders for the Delhi Sultanate might do an okay job just having that little bit of increase on heavy, but they're not knights. Keshiks aren't knights either, but they're a little bit closer to knights than something like a Ghazi Raider would be. So it gives them a little bit of power in Feudal Age, and I think that's why for a lot of Mongolian players are seeing a lot of trade get set up pretty early.
Yeah, it's just, well, now the reason why I feel like the Keshiks made a perfect sense for the Mongol players too is when they used to trade, they would kind of just not have a ton of stuff to spend the gold on. They didn't have a feudal unit to spend that gold on, so that's why they wanted to hit up to castle. And now that they have a feudal unit, you actually will see Mongols sometimes play this extended feudal age now instead of the Dark Age tower rush to skip straight to castle.
Yeah, and they're pretty okay with doing that. Having a Keshik as not only a raiding unit, but a frontline unit as well. It can kind of do a little bit of everything, and that extra HP gain from every hit that they do, whether on villagers, buildings, military units, provides a little bit of good firepower, both in the DPS and the tank sense as a front line as well. And both of these civilizations that we're going to see in Feudal Age, they both have the ability to produce military units at a rather increased pace. You have the Mongols with the Uvu big getting 2x, especially in the beginning. It gives you a good foothold to get some map control and kind of steamroll afterward. Delhi, on the other hand, can efficiently produce and pop out a lot of units in a rather short amount of time as well. So both of these civilizations are okay and usually enjoy fighting in feudal age. So on this pivotal game 5, I would love to see a really extended feudal button heads with feudal age units. That's my favorite part of the game.
Trust me, I watch you. I know that's your favorite part of the game. There's plenty of games that I think you lose because you refuse to go to castle because you want it to end in feudal. But, that all being said, we talked a lot about the Civ matchups. Well, in the meantime, what's a great way to support the players, support the scene, support the next tournaments that might be going on? It's that the good old Patreon. It is really the best way to go towards the next tournaments, to go and just support the overall AoE4 scene. And we already have the next tournament announced. It's basically like the year-end, EGC tournament. But there's going to be future ones. And if there's enough support, there's going to be future LAN events as well.
Ooh, I'd love to see a LAN event. I don't know where it's going to be, but I would get on an airplane wherever it goes. I will say, as somebody who's a Patreon myself, I signed up for the Patreon last week. I gained about 10 pounds of muscle mass. I've never been better at my job. And I think, looking out the window here, what do we got? Looks like about 15 to 20 women outside my front door. So might be a good idea to hit up that Patreon. You're going to love the way you look. I guarantee it.
Yeah, speaking of the way we look, we're going to be checking in on some of these groups. Looking in at Group C, you can see 3DB has the commanding lead in the #1 spot. You got Keo in second, waiting to play against Divine, and Chrysor following up in the rear. Hasn't quite had the great success so far, but still was able to take a game off of Keo, so isn't quite there with the total donut.
What an insane group. Taking a look at these, all 4 of these players. I mean, Keo's been a massively good player. Divine, obviously a good player. You could see their streams. They stream on a regular basis. Now heading on to Group B. This is not a slouch of a bracket as well. All of these brackets have some really big heavy hitters. Lucifron and Avely taking a 1-0 round 2, going to be underway just a little bit later. Lucifron taking on Legolas, and Avely taking on Kiljardy. Kiljardy is also a fantastic player. Only down 0-1, but that is anybody's bracket.
Yeah, Kiljardy's one of those players that, he's very fun to watch. He had some great success in the most previous tournament where I feel like a lot of people started to enjoy watching his games more, learned his name a little more. And so we'll obviously first week was Lucifron, a tough matchup there. So we'll see how he plays out with the rest of the series. We got Group A coming in. We're going to have... Actually, Marine Lord has already 3-0'd Faye today. Cat and Lash are going to be playing as well. And Marine Lord, I would say being the favorite, is still as expected in that commanding lead in the first place in his group.
Yeah, I think this one might be one of the most popular brackets. You could see just about all of these players on stream on a daily basis. So you've probably watched these people. Marine Lord obviously taking that 2-0, has fate in his hands. That Cat and Lash series is going to be very, very important. And Group E, which we're going to be tuning into a little bit later, has 2 of the MYI clan members, with the Mista and Zertin both being 1-0. Puppy Paw surprisingly taking that loss from Zertin, being down 0-1, GUA at 0-1 as well. We are going to be watching Puppy Paw and Mista a little bit later, though.
Yeah, I feel like that was one of those, again, after the first round, some of these players you could see who might have put in some more practice, or who kind of just assumed that they were going to be doing good enough just based off of their base skills. And now we're checking in on the group that we are covering currently. We have Wam and Louie up at the top, and then it was Sass and Myriad to finish it on out at the bottom.
Again, 4 fantastic. I'm saying this over and over again. I feel like a broken record, but every one of these brackets, I'd be scared to jump into. All of these get fantastic players. I mean, just in this bracket in particular, too, with Wam and LoueMT coming in on a game 5, this is undoubtedly anyone's bracket, and we're going to see how that bracket shapes out with this pivotal game 5. We have Wam playing as the Delhi Sultanate in the color blue, spawning on the northern side of the map. His opponent in this most crucial game 5, LoueMT, playing as the Mongols in the color yellow. spawning on the south side. Now, taking a look at Empire Wars Dabs, it's really nice for the Delhi Sultanate because they get 3 scholars out of the gate. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, they do need that extra catch up on their timing since those techs weren't able to get started at the, you know, I guess like 3 minutes prior to dropping Feudal Age like they are at times. But Louis going up with the Silver Tree, so not what I was mentioning. He is just going straight into that trade and dropping his stables as well with it to probably start moving out. I wonder if he might go for a little bit of some extra scouts and go for the same plays that he has been doing, which would be some good old professional scouts.
Yeah, I mean, it begs the question that Wham might also do the same thing. Right? I mean, you can get some of his mill technologies that are free. So we might see a pro scout off out of both of these guys. But I think for the Mongolians, obviously, it would help out. You do get a couple pastures in the beginning, but having some deer with the increased food gathering speed might be able to help you out as well. Now, with Wham going for Tower of the Victory, we're going to be expecting a little bit of feudal age combat, right? I mean, we see Tower of Victory more so if you want to take battles in feudal. We'll see Dome of the Faith a little bit more if you want the game to extend into Castle Age. Now, for Wham, he does have, because you got to be thinking about disrupting the Mongol trade. As soon as that silver tree goes down, you're thinking about, okay, if I don't stop this trade, I lose the game. So, Dabs, in your opinion, what do you think the best way is for him to do that?
I mean, I still think Delhi plays their game. They play the map control game where it's grab the sacred sites, and while they're going to be doing that with Ghazi Raiders, with Spearmen and whatnot, you know, if you grab walls around the sacred sites, you might just end up pushing forward with a couple of these units, especially the mobile ones, hit the trade route, so just make another location that Louis has to focus on. Sacred sites, trade, all these different things.
Yeah, that's a really good point. You can make your points of interest the most important points of interest, you know, and it looks like Wham is starting to do that. He's going out with his feudal age spearman. He knows LoueMT is probably going to be going into Keshik, so spearman getting that barracks out might be a good idea. Walling around those areas as well, and we'll be able to take them rather quickly. It looks like Sanctity is about 25 to 30% of the way there, so he'll be able to get some of those sacred sites. The one thing that I want to point your attention to, Dabs, is the market placements for Louis. Not necessarily the best markets I've ever seen.
No, not by any means, and you can actually see where that silver tree is moving to. It's kind of one of these where he wants to get an extended route, not in the corner, but this is still going to be hard to protect. That being said, he has dropped a secondary TC, probably a little bit along this path as well, which for the Mongols, not the easiest investment, being all wood. Yes, that is one-dimensional, but still quite a bit of resources.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you're putting a lot of your villagers on wood to get the 900 needed for a town center, you can't necessarily continuously have Keshik production. And you can see with that second town center how much Louis has suffered in that department. Military count 16 to 5. Only 3 Keshiks and 2 of those units being the Khan and the Scout. Whereas Wham, he's trying to get a lot of presence on this map. He knows he's going to get the sacred sites, has a good spear count against those Keshiks. The Ghazi Raiders are no slouches to those Keshiks either. So if Louis tries to get some kind of trade going and starts to produce traders, he has got nothing to protect them.
Yeah, the Ghazi Raiders, the Scout, they are about to see that secondary town center. They jump on inside, good amount of return damage. At the same time, Keshik's hitting a villager trying to build some production, and so 2 little bits of decent pickup there by Louis.
Yeah, and especially for a Delhi player who's only on 1 town center, didn't go for a 2 TC Delhi build. Every villager you lose is so crucial because Louis can make them at 2 times the speed as you with the secondary town center. So having those 1 or 2, even as high as 3, 5 worker kills could mean a big difference in feudal battles when Delhi, even though they have the military lead, they got to keep going with it. They're going to be losing some more villagers. Second one going down. It's very difficult for Wham to try to recover economically.
Yeah, look at that. He's got 20 idle villagers, more than half of his eco's idle. Loses a scout on the other side and has a nice sheep delivery that Louis says thank you very much.
I mean, Louis been doing a lot of yoinking, and I'd like to think that a sheep comes out as the hat trick of yoinking, and it looks like we're seeing the superiority of Ghazi Raiders in terms of mobility right? They have a little bit of that extra mobility, so they'll be able to chase down Keshiks that are trying to get some of these villager raids, and they did a good job for those couple of them, right? But if you have enough Ghazi Raiders providing a defense for you, you might be able to shield some of those Delhi villagers that are left now. Sacred Sites, looks like all of them have been taken by Wham. Sacred Victory obviously approaching, that you can see on the right side of your screen, but it's more important for that gold income. He can use that income to just continuously mass units, where having a little bit of villager deficit, excuse me, might be okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is all of the damage that Louie's been able to be doing, it's made up for by the triple Sacred Site control, and it's not just Sacred Site control, it's Sacred Site secured as well. He has them capped, and he has walls around them, which means they're not going to be decapped anytime soon easily.
No, I mean, it's going to take a little bit of time. I mean, even though they're just palisade walls, it gives you that little bit of time where, yeah, you got to burn down the walls. The walls aren't going to fire back at you, but because of the mobility of Wham's army right now with those Ghazi Raiders, he'll be able to get to those points of interest. And I think that's why the Ghazi Raiders are as good as they are. But now he's taking them more on the offensive approach. He sees that Ubu gathering stone. He wants none of that. It looks like Wham's going to pull his military mass out of the way while Louis brings his right in.
Yeah, but look at the resources in the bank for Wham already. It's almost just how last game went. It was like, all right, well, extra TC on the side of Louis now. Well, Wham's going to utilize the extra food that he has and just go up to Castle Age here in just a second. All that gold income is sky high, just basically only Sacred Site. He had like 4 villagers there, but I think they just moved there.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have many villagers on gold. He might still have his starting 4. I'm not really sure, but he, with his gold per minute, he's already at about 500. Didn't need to put resources there. He put resources in food. I always say this, that a great Delhi player knows how to take the Sacred Sites without committing as much to feudal as they possibly need to, and it looks like Wham did just enough for that to get up to Sacred Site, get up to Castle Age with those Sacred Sites, because then this Delhi spike is going to start.
Yeah, and the only thing, though, Louis can take this, this is where I find it hard when you're playing against Delhi. It's like, what do you want to do? You want to deny all the Sacred Sites, but it's going to take a lot of time to burn down those walls. Time that Louis doesn't have, because then Wham's going to be Castle Age getting those upgrades in. So do you take it to the base, and then now the Sacred Sites are going unchecked? It's like this hard effect to do once Delhi is fully set up.
Yeah, that's the frustrating thing, right? And Louis, he has a decision to make in terms of the base or the Sacred Site, and he's going for one of the Sacred Sites. Takes time to try to get that wall down, and then while you're decapping that Sacred Site, he's still getting that gold trickle just a little bit, so you can continue to pump some of those Castle Age units. Does put 1 spearman in that direction, and Wham going for, it looks like Delhi Castle Age Lancers, gets a good raid on this wood line and where those pastures are. This is idling half of his economy.
Yeah, tons of idle villagers. Will lose some Ghazi Raiders for it, but he's upgrading away from Ghazi Raiders to those Lancers.
Yeah, I really like the Lancer pick here. I mean, Louis does have rock, paper, and scissors, right? He's got Keshiks, he's got Spearmen, he's got Archer, and he's going to continuously produce them in Feudal Age. He knows for him, this is kind of the time to strike, try to decap these Sacred Sites, because for the Delhi Sultanate, it's going to take a little bit of time for those upgrades to actually go through, depending on whatever he wants to upgrade. So Wham's kind of limited to, if he wants to use a Castle Age advantage, he's got to use Castle Age units, right? So he could be pulling in things like Men-at-Arms instead of Spearmen. He could be using things like Lancers, Crossbowmen, and the other stuff, some of the counters for what's going on with Louis' army. He'll have to upgrade, which is going to take a little bit of time, and it looks like Wham isn't really thinking about that, going for more Men-at-Arms and Lancers, and I like his choice.
Yep. And Louis trying to push forward over to that other Sacred Site. He did burn the wall, and I think he put a spear in onto the west one or the middle one, but not sure if it's been fully decapped yet. Burns a hole through the wall in Wham's base, so Wham does have some vulnerability here. Louis has a ton of units, ton of the correct counter units as well, but still has a lot to deal with.
Yeah, and I mean, he's still dealing with raids right by that hometown center, right? I mean, I know he's only idling 5 units, or 5 villagers, I should say, but it's still a little bit of villagers you'd rather be making resources rather than otherwise. So You're right. Wham is doing the best he can to try to shore up his defenses, trying to get that Castle Age army. It looks like if he does take this fight, though, with a 61-27 advantage, Louis is going to like it, and I think these Lancers are going to go down if they don't get out of here.
And that advantage just got a little bit better as Wham sent about 5 spears to go build that wall, met with some archers on his side, which is, again, the perfect unit to counter that out. Lancers, though, picking up a little bit of a small mass from Louis that was left out. Has to evacuate his food department, though, and Louis, through all of this, going up to Castle Age. Look at those villagers. If this wall gets burnt, Wham just has to evacuate, and Louis can split this military units on either parts of the wall if he can.
Yeah, and I think that might be a good idea, actually. You might. I mean, now that we have God-seeing vision, we can see that there's holes on both sides, but more villagers are going to be going down for Wham. Those Castle Age Lancers trying to help him out, trying to make sure a lot of them don't end up going down. We've noticed the step readout from LoueMT. For Wham being in Castle Age for these first couple minutes, that was really his job to try to get a stranglehold on what was going on. Really difficult for him to do that. Now he's taking this big fight right before the Mongolians get some of those upgrades, and it's going to make LoueMT back up.
Yeah, Louis needs those upgrades in. He chooses archers first, which is odd. The spearman number is really getting thinned out quite quickly. The men-at-arms mass is still there and pretty effective, and Louis just needs to regroup for a second and should be able to take this fine and efficiently.
Yeah, and I think with some of those units that he's making, he's continuing to try to get those upgrades. Maybe he will. A couple spearmen coming back in as reinforcements just because of how many Lancers there are. Those spearmen still of the feudal age variety, and it looks like Wham does not have any ranged mass, so a lot of those spearmen, they're going to chew up those Castle Age Lancers no matter what age they're coming out of, and you can see them start to dwindle. That front mass for Wham starting to dwindle. Actually, the men-at-arms being more effective than the Lancers in this situation, that's for sure.
Yes, they are. Archer upgrade just now finishes a little too late. Spear upgrade is on its way. Keshiks are still of the feudal age variety, and it doesn't really matter, though. Louis, the numbers is showing what really matters. He still has the second TC working. It looks like the Deerstones was just an overall bait, I feel like. Never decided to set up trade. It was just kind of maybe to be that mental blockage, to always have that in the back of Wham's mind.
Yeah, I absolutely think you're right, because, I mean, he went for step readout in Castle Age, right? That means he didn't have the trade, right? So he has to use that increased gold drop-off. You know, so you're right. I think that absolutely was a bait. He saw the trading posts over here. He knew it wasn't going to be very advantageous for him, right? So he did use it. I mean, it's sitting over there in the corner. If this game does extend very, very long, he might be able to get some trade out of it. But otherwise, yeah, I agree.
Wham, though, he does have the relics secure for himself, so he has some additional passive gold other than just those sacred sites, which Louis still trying to get those denied. Does not want that daily income to be continually brought back in. Wham, though, he's starting to run out of these food locations. Louis been constantly focusing on the deer, on the berries, over in these couple same spots, and Wham doesn't really have other places to go to get other food.
No, I mean, he's really exploiting a deli weakness, right? They love going out for berries. If they see any berry bushes, they are dropping a mill right there to get that increased gathering speed and the increased drop-offs. But it just makes them very susceptible to things like raids, to things like idle times. Now more men-at-arms are coming in for Wham, and it looks like a lot of LoueMT's military count, actually all of them, are of Castle Age, and we have a strength of 51 to 22 trying to battle out. Look at that flank dabs over there from the south side. You got a couple Lancers over there with those archers, and it might be a little bit of crossbowmen. I was very surprised Wham actually was able to clean this up.
Yeah, it wasn't all of Louis' army there together, and a lot of these are archers fighting against heavily armored units, so they're not really getting the connections that they need to make. That being said, decent trade still. A lot of food denial through all of this as Wham, look at his food per minute. That is a big, fat 0.
Not good. Not good, especially when you're trying to make units, and you took a big fight there, which, yeah, he kind of came out on top of, right? He lost Louis lost a decent amount of his military mass, but Louis the one at 1,000 food per minute, whereas Wham is scrambling. He's looking for any berry he could chomp on.
Oh, the villager, it gets the outpost up, but he doesn't jump in time, and those villagers should be able to burn that down. But Louis, he is at the point where I feel like the secondary TC has paid off more than heavy enough, and Wham thinks so too. Game number 5, the game decider, taken by LoueMT.
What an unbelievable back and forth series. I feel like if we played this best of 5 tomorrow, it could go a different way. You know, it's one of those series where you wish it was a best of 11.